Story 1.
My parents told us that the child with the best grades would get the basic necessities. A meant food, shelter, and a $500 weekly allowance. B meant minimum food and shelter. C meant getting kicked out and disowned. But at only 11, while sick, I got 1C. They said, rules are rules. So, I moved in with Grandma. But 7 years later, when she died and left me everything, suddenly the rules weren't the rules anymore. I was 11 years old when my parents kicked me out. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally. I mean, they packed my things in 2 garbage bags, called my grandmother, and told me I had until morning to be gone. The reason? A single C on my report card. In math. While I had pneumonia. You're probably thinking I'm exaggerating. That parents don't really do that. But mine did, and they did it with the kind of calm efficiency that made it so much worse. No yelling. No drama. Just my mother's tight smile and my father's disappointed headshake, like I'd failed some cosmic test of worthiness. Let me back up. My parents had this system. They called it incentive-based parenting, which is just a fancy way of saying they turned childhood into a gladiator arena. There were 4 of us kids, Marcus, the oldest at 16 when this happened. Then Vanessa, who was 14. Me, Claudia, at 11. And little Jamie, who was only 8. The rules were simple, brutal, and non-negotiable. Every report card was a judgment day. All A's meant you got the full package, your own room, 3 meals a day, new clothes when you needed them, and a weekly allowance of $500. $500. At 11 years old, that felt like a fortune I'd never touch. If you got mostly A's with a few B's, you dropped to tier 2. Shared room, basic meals, hand-me-down clothes, no allowance. Livable, but the shame of it hung on you like a stench. But a single C? That was exile. Out of the house. Out of the family. Disowned was the word they used, and they meant it. Marcus had perfect grades. He'd had his own room since he was 10, wore designer clothes, and walked around the house like a prince reviewing his kingdom. Vanessa was usually tier 2, which meant she bunked with me and wore my old clothes, but she was safe. Jamie was still young enough that they gave him some grace, but his fear was already taking root. You could see it in how he'd clutch his graded spelling tests, hands trembling. Me? I was a straight A student. Always had been. I memorized, I studied, I sacrificed sleep and recess and everything else to keep myself fed and sheltered. Because I understood, even at that age, that my parents weren't bluffing. Until the pneumonia. It started as a cough in late October. By early November, I couldn't get out of bed without the room spinning. My chest felt like someone had filled it with wet concrete. I remember lying there, shivering under 2 blankets, trying to work on my math homework while my vision blurred and my head pounded. My mother checked on me once. Felt my forehead. Said, "You'll be fine. Just rest up for school tomorrow." I wasn't fine. The school nurse called home after I nearly passed out in the hallway. She told my parents I needed to see a doctor, that I might have pneumonia. My father picked me up, took me to urgent care, got the diagnosis and the antibiotics, then drove home in silence. "You'll need to make up the work you're missing," he said as we pulled into the driveway. "And you better ace that math test on Friday." I took the test on Friday. Fever of 101. Could barely hold the pencil. I remember the numbers swimming on the page, my brain too foggy to remember formulas I'd known cold just 2 weeks before. I did my best. I really did. I got a 73. AC. Report cards came out the next Wednesday. I opened mine in the school cafeteria, and my entire body went cold. 6 A's. 1 C. I wanted to throw up, and not from the pneumonia. Marcus was the first to notice when I got home. He was in the kitchen making himself a sandwich, 3 layers of deli meat and cheese that cost more than my entire weekly grocery budget would have been if I'd had one. "How'd you do?" he asked, not even looking at me. I didn't answer. I walked straight to my room, the one I shared with Vanessa, and started pulling out my backpack. I didn't know what else to do. I just knew I needed to be ready. Vanessa came in 10 minutes later. She took one look at me, at the backpack, at my face, and understood. "No," she whispered. "Claudia, no. You didn't." "Math," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "I got a C in math." Her eyes went wide. For a second, I thought she might hug me or cry or do something to acknowledge that this was insane. Instead, she took 2 steps back, like my failure might be contagious. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. I just sat there on my bed, the one I wouldn't be sleeping in tomorrow, and tried not to cry. Dinner was at 6. My parents made us all sit together, even on report card days. Especially on report card days. My father said grace, which he only did when he was about to deliver some kind of life lesson, and then we ate in silence for 5 minutes. Finally, my mother spoke. "Reports?" she said, like she was asking about the weather. Marcus went first. 4 A+, 3 A's. He smirked as he slid the paper across the table. My father nodded, proud. My mother smiled. Vanessa went next. 5 A's, 2 B's. A slight tightening around my mother's mouth, but a nod. Acceptable. Jamie's hands shook as he handed over his report card. All A's except for 1 B+ in reading. Relief flooded his little face when my father patted his shoulder. Then they looked at me. I slid the paper across the table. Didn't say anything. What was there to say? My father picked it up. Scanned it. His jaw tightened. He passed it to my mother without a word. She read it. Set it down. Looked at me with eyes like flint. "A C," she said. "In math." "I had pneumonia," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "I took the test when I was sick." I could barely think. "That's an excuse," my father interrupted. "Other students were sick too. They didn't fail." "I didn't fail. I got a C. You know the rules, Claudia." My mother's voice was flat. "Final. A C means out. Those are the rules." "But I was sick." My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. "I'm better now. The next report card, I'll get all A's again, I promise. Rules are rules," my father said. He stood up, dinner half finished, and left the table. I looked at Marcus. He was smiling down at his plate. Vanessa wouldn't meet my eyes. Jamie looked like he was about to cry, but he didn't say anything either. Nobody did. That night, my mother came into my room with 2 garbage bags. "Pack your essentials," she said. "Your grandmother will be here in the morning." "Mom, please, this isn't a negotiation, Claudia. You failed to meet the standard. We gave you every opportunity, every resource. If you can't maintain basic academic excellence, you can't live here." "I'm 11. "Yes. Which means you've had plenty of time to learn how the world works. Actions have consequences. You'll thank us for this someday." She left. Just turned and walked out, closing the door behind her with a soft click that felt louder than a slam. I packed. What else could I do? Clothes. Toothbrush. The few books I owned. A stuffed rabbit I'd had since I was 3 that I was definitely too old for but couldn't leave behind. It all fit in the 2 bags with room to spare. That's how little I had, even in the Tier 1 life I'd worked so hard to maintain. Vanessa pretended to be asleep the whole time. I could tell by her breathing that she wasn't, but I didn't call her out. What would have been the point? I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed and watched the clock tick toward morning, wondering what my life was about to become. Grandma Rose arrived at 7 in the morning. I heard her voice in the foyer, tight and angry. "You're really doing this?" she said to my parents. "She's a child." "Your child?" "She's your granddaughter," my mother replied. "And if you want to enable her mediocrity, that's your choice. But she won't learn anything from us coddling her." "Mediocrity?" "She had pneumonia. She's 11 years old." "The rules were clear from the beginning," my father said. "We don't make exceptions. That's how children learn accountability. That's how children learn their parents don't love them." Silence. Heavy and cold. "Take her," my mother said finally. "If you're going to undermine everything we're trying to teach, just take her." I grabbed my bags and walked downstairs. My siblings were all in the living room, watching. Marcus looked satisfied. Vanessa looked guilty but relieved it wasn't her. Jamie's eyes were red. I didn't say goodbye. What was there to say? Grandma Rose took my bags, put her hand on my shoulder, and guided me out to her car. I climbed in, buckled up, and watched my childhood home shrink in the side mirror as we drove away. I didn't cry until we were on the highway. Then I sobbed so hard I thought I might throw up. Grandma didn't tell me to stop or that it would be okay. She just drove, one hand on the wheel and one hand reaching over to squeeze mine. "You're going to be fine," she said quietly. "Better than fine. You'll see." I didn't believe her. How could I? But 7 years later, sitting in a lawyer's office as he read her will, I finally understood what she meant. Grandma Rose lived alone in a small but comfortable house about 40 minutes from my parents' place. It was old, built in the 1960s, with creaky floors and a front porch that sagged a little on one side. But it was warm. There were plants in every window. The kitchen always smelled like something baking. And my room, my own room, not shared with anyone, had blue walls and a window seat where I could read for hours. I thought I'd feel like a burden. A charity case. But Grandma never treated me that way. "You're not a guest," she said the first night, after she'd made up my bed with clean sheets that smelled like lavender. "This is your home now. Understand? Your home." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "And we don't have rules like your parents. I'm not going to kick you out for a bad grade. But I do expect respect and honesty. Can you do that?" "Yes," I whispered. "Good. Now come eat some soup. You're too skinny." Life with Grandma was different in every way. She didn't hover over my homework, but she'd sit with me at the kitchen table while I worked, doing crossword puzzles or knitting. She didn't bribe me with money or threaten me with exile. She just expected me to do my best and trusted me to figure out what that meant. I still got good grades. Turns out, when you're not paralyzed by fear of homelessness, school gets a lot easier. But if I got a B, Grandma would just ask if I'd studied enough and if I needed help. No punishment. No shame. Just support. She worked part-time at a library and lived on a modest pension from when my grandfather had been alive. Money was tight, but we always had what we needed. She taught me to cook, to budget, to fix things around the house instead of throwing them away. She taught me that worth wasn't measured in grades or money or performance. It was intrinsic. Inalienable. Mine. I saw my parents and siblings maybe 3 times in those 7 years. Thanksgiving once. Christmas twice. Stiff, formal occasions where everyone pretended everything was normal. Marcus was at Yale by the time I turned 16, fully funded by our parents, already talking about law school. Vanessa had slipped to Tier 2 permanently and wore the anxiety like a second skin. Jamie was doing fine, grade-wise, but he developed a stutter and chewed his nails until they bled. My parents asked me how school was going. I said fine. They asked if I was behaving for Grandma. I said yes. That was the extent of our relationship. Grandma said they'd called a few times over the years, asking how I was. She'd kept the conversations short. "She's thriving," she'd tell them. "No thanks to you." I loved her for that. When I turned 17, Grandma started slowing down. Little things at first. Forgetting where she put her keys. Getting winded going up the stairs. Then bigger things. A fall in the garden. Confusion about what day it was. A doctor's appointment that turned into a hospital stay that turned into a diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Metastatic. Inoperable. 6 months, they said. Maybe less. She lasted 4. I took the spring semester of my senior year online so I could be with her. She fought the idea at first, said I needed to focus on school, on my future. But I fought harder. She'd given me a home when no one else would. I wasn't leaving her now. Those 4 months were the worst and best of my life. Worse because I watched this woman who'd saved me waste away, her body betraying her in inches. Best because we talked about everything. Her childhood. Her marriage to my grandfather. Her disappointment in how my father had turned out, how he'd become obsessed with achievement and status and forgotten how to be human. He wasn't always like this, she told me one afternoon. We were sitting on the porch, her in a wheelchair now, wrapped in blankets despite the spring warmth. When he was young, he was kind. Curious. But somewhere along the way, he started measuring everything by what it could get him. Success. Respect. Proof that he mattered. And then he passed that sickness on to you kids. Not all of us, I said quietly. She smiled. Squeezed my hand with fingers that felt like bird bones. No. Not you. You broke the cycle, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. She died on a Tuesday morning in May. I was holding her hand. The hospice nurse said it was peaceful, that she just slipped away, but I felt the exact moment she left. The room got colder. Emptier. I sat there for an hour, holding her hand, crying until I couldn't breathe. The funeral was small. Grandma had outlived most of her friends. My parents came, all 4 of my siblings. They hugged me, said the appropriate things, looked vaguely uncomfortable. Marcus had to fly in from Yale. Vanessa brought her new boyfriend, a nervous guy who clearly wanted to be anywhere else. Jamie, now 15, had grown tall and quiet. He hugged me longest. After the service, My mother pulled me aside. "We'll need to talk about the house," she said. "Your grandmother didn't have much, but the property should sell for something. We can split it 4 ways, between your father and his siblings." "She left a will," I said. My mother blinked. "What? A will?" "Her lawyer has it. He's reading it next week." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe? Or concern? "Well, I'm sure she left things fairly distributed," she said carefully. I didn't respond. I didn't know what was in the will. Grandma had mentioned updating it a few months before she died, but we'd never discussed details. I'd assumed she'd leave things to her children, my father and his 2 siblings. Maybe a small token for me. That's how these things usually went, right? The lawyer's office was in the same building as the dentist I'd gone to as a kid. I remembered hating that place, the sterile smell and the 2 bright lights. Now I sat in a conference room with my parents, my Uncle David, my Aunt Christine, and the lawyer, a middle-aged man named Mr. Hendricks who kept adjusting his glasses. "Thank you all for coming," he said, opening a folder. Rose Whitmore's will is straightforward, but I wanted to read it with all relevant parties present to avoid any confusion. My mother sat with her hands folded, my father beside her looking impatient. Uncle David scrolled through his phone. Aunt Christine stared out the window. I sat at the end of the table, feeling like I was intruding. Mr. Hendricks cleared his throat and began to read. The first part was standard. Small bequests to her church, to a few charities. Then he got to the main assets. "To my son, Richard Whitmore, I leave my mother's wedding ring and my collection of first edition books, which he always admired." My father nodded, satisfied. "To my son, David Whitmore, I leave my husband's watch and the set of golf clubs in the garage." Uncle David glanced up from his phone, nodded. "To my daughter, Christine Whitmore Park, I leave my jewelry box and the china set from my mother." Aunt Christine smiled slightly. "The remainder of my estate, including my house, all savings and investment accounts, and any other assets not explicitly mentioned, I leave entirely to my granddaughter, Claudia Marie Whitmore, who has been my companion, my helper, and my joy for the past 7 years. She earned this not through birthright but through love, and I trust she will use it wisely and well." The room went silent. I stared at Mr. Hendricks, certain I'd misheard. "What?" He looked at me over his glasses. "You inherit everything else. The house is in your name as of today. There's a savings account with approximately $48,000. A small investment portfolio worth another $30,000. The car. The furniture. Everything." "That's ridiculous," my mother said, her voice sharp. "She's 18 years old. She can't manage." "Rose was of sound mind when she drafted this will," Mr. Hendricks interrupted. "I witnessed it myself. The distribution is legal and final." "She lived with Rose out of convenience," my father said, his face reddening. "This is clearly undue influence. Mr. Whitmore, your mother was explicit in her reasoning. I have notes from our conversations. Claudia provided care during Rose's final months. She gave up her senior year to be with her. Rose wanted to ensure she was provided for, particularly given," he glanced at his notes, "given that you removed Claudia from your home at age 11 over a single grade." My mother's face went pale. My father's went red. "That was a parenting choice," he said tightly. "We had standards, and Rose had her own standards," Mr. Hendricks said. "Which she expressed in her will. Now, if you'd like to contest this, you're welcome to try, but I'll be frank, you won't win. The will is airtight. I made sure of it because Rose anticipated this exact reaction." Uncle David was the first to leave, muttering something about a wasted trip. Aunt Christine followed, though she paused to touch my shoulder. "She loved you very much," she whispered, then was gone. My parents stayed seated, staring at me like I'd stolen something from them. "You manipulated her," my mother said finally. "A sick old woman. I took care of her," I said, my voice shaking. "I held her hand while she died." "Where were you?" "Don't you dare." "We visited," my father cut in. "We called. We checked in." "Twice," I said. "You visited twice in 4 months. You called maybe 6 times. I was there every single day. Because you had nowhere else to go." My mother snapped. "Because you couldn't maintain the standards we set." I was 11. The words burst out of me, loud and raw. "I had pneumonia and I was 11 years old and you threw me away like I was garbage." My father stood abruptly. "We're done here. Claudia, when you've matured enough to understand what your grandmother has done to this family, perhaps we can have a civil conversation. Until then, rules are rules," I said quietly. He froze. That's what you told me. When I begged you not to kick me out. Rules are rules. No exceptions. My mother stood now too, gathering her purse. This isn't over. Yeah, I said. It is. They left. I sat in that conference room for another 20 minutes while Mr. Hendricks walked me through paperwork, account numbers, next steps. I signed things. He explained things. I heard maybe half of it. My hands were shaking too hard to hold a pen steady. When I finally left, it was almost dark. I drove Grandma's old Honda back to the house, my house, and sat in the driveway for a long time, crying so hard I fogged up the windows. The next few weeks were a blur. I graduated high school. Went to a college I'd already deferred enrollment to, thanks to taking care of Grandma. I'd planned to work for a year, save up, figure things out. Now I had options. I had choices. I had a house and money and a future that didn't depend on anyone's approval but my own. Marcus called once. Said he thought what Grandma did was unfair, that I'd taken advantage of her deteriorating mental state. I hung up on him. Vanessa called too. She was quieter. I'm glad you have somewhere to land, she said. I'm sorry I didn't. I should have said something. Back then? When they kicked you out? Yeah, I said. You should have. We haven't spoken since. Jamie called on my birthday. He was 17 now, a senior in high school, counting down the days until he could escape. He asked if he could visit sometime. I said yes. I meant it. My parents called 6 weeks after the will reading. My mother's voice was saccharine, fake sweet in a way that made my skin crawl. Claudia, honey, we've been thinking. This whole situation got out of hand. We'd love for you to come to dinner. Clear the air. You're still family, after all. I almost laughed. No. Excuse me? No. I'm not coming to dinner. I'm not clearing the air. We're not family. You made that very clear 7 years ago. Claudia, we only wanted what was best for you. You wanted obedience. You wanted perfection. And when I couldn't deliver it while I was literally sick, you threw me out. I was 11? 11. Do you understand how messed up that is? Silence on the other end. Grandma saw it, I continued. She saw exactly who you were, and she made sure I'd be okay despite you. So no. I'm not coming to dinner. Don't call me again. I hung up. Blocked the number? Blocked my father's too. And Marcus's. I kept Vanessa's and Jamie's unblocked, just in case. But everyone else? Gone. It felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I sold some of Grandma's things. Kept others. Turned her craft room into an office. Started college in the fall, majoring in education because I wanted to be the kind of teacher who saw kids as people, not products. Who understood that a bad grade didn't mean a bad person. That sickness and struggle in life got in the way sometimes, and that was okay. I worked part-time, even though I didn't need to, because Grandma had taught me the value of showing up and doing things yourself. I made friends. Went to parties. Had a life that didn't revolve around terror and performance. And slowly, I stopped looking over my shoulder. 2 years later, my father showed up at my door. It was a Saturday afternoon in October. I was studying for midterms, sitting on the porch with tea and a textbook, when his car pulled into the driveway. My first instinct was to run inside and lock the door. My second was to stand my ground. I chose the second. He got out of the car slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal. He looked older. Grayer. Tired. Claudia, he said. What do you want? To talk. Just 5 minutes. Why? He sighed, ran a hand through his thinning hair. Because I'm your father. Because we haven't spoken in 2 years. Because I think we need to talk. Every instinct screamed at me to say no. But curiosity won. Stupid, dangerous curiosity. 5 minutes, I said. Out here. He sat on the porch steps. I stayed standing, arms crossed. Your mother and I are getting divorced, he said. I blinked. Of all the things I'd expected, that wasn't one of them. Okay, I said carefully. It's been coming for a while. We've grown apart. Different priorities. She's focusing on Marcus's career. I'm trying to figure out what I want my life to look like now that you kids are grown. Why are you telling me this? He looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something other than disappointment or pride in his eyes. He looked lost. Because I've been thinking about you, he said. About what we did. What I did. And I'm not sure anymore that it was right. My heart started pounding. You're not sure? I thought we were teaching you resilience. Accountability. I thought if we set high standards, you'd all rise to meet them and be stronger for it. And? And Jamie barely speaks to me. Vanessa has panic attacks over every test. Marcus thinks people are only valuable if they're successful. And you? He trailed off, looking at the house. You're the only one who seems okay. And you got there by getting away from us. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream at him. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face. Part of me, a small, traitorous part, wanted to hear him say he was sorry. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said quietly. I know I don't deserve that. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. What we did to you. What I did. It was wrong. And I'm sorry. There it was. The apology I'd needed at 11. At 15. At any point in the past 7 years. Now it just felt hollow. Okay, I said. Okay? I hear you. You're sorry. But you're 9 years too late, and an apology doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't give me back the childhood I lost or the trust I'll never have in you again. His face crumpled slightly. I know. So why are you really here? Because I don't think it's just to apologize. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, your mother wants to contest the will. She's been talking to lawyers. Says Grandma Rose wasn't in her right mind, that you manipulated her. There it was. The real reason. And you're here to warn me? I'm here to tell you I won't support it. I told her to drop it. We fought about it. It's part of why we're divorcing. I stared at him. You expect me to thank you for not helping Mom steal my inheritance? No. I wanted you to know I'm not part of it. That I'm trying to do the right thing, even if it's late. The right thing would have been not kicking me out at 11, I said flatly. The right thing would have been getting me medical care and tutoring and support instead of punishment. The right thing would have been being a parent. He flinched. You're right. I know I am. We sat in silence. A neighbor walked by with a dog. A car passed on the street. Normal life, happening all around this surreal moment. Is there anything I can do? He asked finally. To make this better? Even a little? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Help Jamie, I said. And Vanessa. Get them therapy. Tell them it's okay to be imperfect. Break the cycle before it breaks them. He nodded slowly. Okay. I can do that. And leave me alone. I don't need you in my life, Dad. I needed you when I was 11 and you weren't there. I'm fine now. Better than fine. He stood, nodded again. I understand. He walked to his car, got in, paused with his hand on the door. For what it's worth, he called out. Your grandmother would be proud of you. The woman you're becoming. I know, I said. She told me. He drove away. I sat back down on the porch, picked up my textbook, and tried to focus. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. But underneath the adrenaline and the anger, there was something else. Relief. He'd apologized, and it hadn't fixed anything. Hadn't changed anything. And that was okay. I didn't need his redemption to heal. I didn't need his approval to know my worth. Grandma Rose had taught me that. My mother never called. Never showed up. But a few months later, I got a letter from her lawyer saying they decided not to pursue legal action regarding the will. I didn't respond. Just filed the letter away and moved on. Jamie visited that summer. He was getting ready to start college, had applied to schools on the other side of the country. We spent a week together, cooking meals and watching movies and talking about everything and nothing. He told me he'd started seeing a therapist. That Dad was paying for it, and for Vanessa's too. He's different now, Jamie said. Still kind of clueless. But he's trying. I think the divorce shook him up. Good, I said. Do you think you'll ever talk to him again? Like, really talk? I considered it. Maybe. Someday. When I'm ready. If I'm ever ready. That's fair. We stood on the porch, looking out at the street. The same porch where Grandma and I had sat so many times. Where she told me I was going to be fine. Where I'd held her hand and promised to make her proud. You really like it here? Jamie asked. I love it here, I said. This house saved my life. He nodded. Grandma saved your life. Yeah. She did. A few weeks after Jamie left, I was going through old boxes in the attic, clearing out space for storage, when I found something tucked in a manila envelope, a letter addressed to me in Grandma's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. My darling Claudia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope I got to say goodbye properly, but just in case, let me say a few things now. You are not the grades you earn or the money you make or the approval you win from people who should love you unconditionally. You are kind and smart and resilient and worthy, exactly as you are. When your parents left you at my door, I was heartbroken. Furious. Terrified for you. But also, selfishly, grateful. Because you gave me purpose in my final years. You gave me joy. You reminded me what matters. I'm leaving you the house because you made it a home. I'm leaving you the money because you'll use it wisely, to build a life that's yours. And I'm leaving you this letter because I want you to know, you don't owe anyone anything. Not your parents. Not your siblings. Not even me. Live your life. Make mistakes. Be imperfect. Be gloriously, messily human. That's all I ever wanted for you. Love always, Grandma Rose. I sat on the attic floor and cried. Not sad tears this time. Grateful ones. She'd seen me. Really seen me. And she'd made sure I'd be okay, even after she was gone. I keep that letter in my desk drawer now. Some days I read it when things get hard, when the old fears creep back in, when I wonder if I'm doing enough or being enough. It reminds me that I already am. It's been 5 years since Grandma died. I'm 23 now. I graduated college last year, got a job teaching 5th grade at a school in the district. I still live in her house, my house, and every time I come home, I feel her presence in the creaky floors and the plants in the windows and the smell of lavender that never quite fades. Jamie visits a few times a year. Vanessa called recently, asked if we could get coffee. I said maybe. I'm not ready yet, but maybe someday. Marcus sent a LinkedIn request. I declined. My mother remarried someone wealthy and moved to Arizona. I found out through Jamie. I didn't reach out. My father sends birthday cards now. Short, awkward messages about hoping I'm well. I don't respond, but I don't throw them away either. They sit in a box in my closet, a record of his 2 late attempts at being a parent. Sometimes students come to me struggling. Failing tests. Falling behind. Scared and ashamed and convinced they're not good enough. And I sit with them, look them in the eye, and tell them the truth, a grade is just a number. It doesn't define them. It doesn't measure their worth. And if they need help, I'll be there. No punishment. No exile. Just support. I see their shoulders relax. They're breathing slow. And I know I'm doing exactly what Grandma Rose wanted me to do. Breaking the cycle. Being the adult I needed when I was their age. Last month, a parent came in for conferences. She was dressed immaculately, designer handbag, perfect makeup. Her daughter, Emma, was one of my students. Bright kid. Creative. But struggling with math. I don't understand why Emma's grade is so low, the mother said, her voice clipped. We have standards in our family. She knows what's expected. Something cold slithered down my spine. Emma's been working very hard, I said carefully. Math doesn't come as naturally to her as other subjects. But she's improving. She went from a 68 to a 74 on the last test. A 74 is still a C. It's progress. The mother leaned forward. Ms. Whitmore, I don't think you understand. In our family, we have a system. Excellence is rewarded. Mediocrity has consequences. Emma needs to understand that. I stared at her. At her perfectly pressed blazer and her cold eyes and the way she said consequences like it was a virtue. What kind of consequences? I asked. She waved a hand dismissively. Nothing abusive, if that's what you're implying. We just have clear expectations and clear outcomes. If Emma can't meet the standard, she loses privileges. It's simple motivation. I thought about 11-year-old me, feverish and terrified, packing garbage bags in the middle of the night. Mrs. Patterson, I said slowly. Can I tell you something? She raised an eyebrow. Of course. When I was 11, I had parents with a system too. All A's meant I got to stay in the house. B's meant I got demoted. C's meant I got kicked out. And when I got sick, pneumonia, actually, and got 1 C on my report card, they made me leave. Packed my bags. Sent me to live with my grandmother. At 11 years old. Her face went pale. I tell you this, I continued, not for sympathy, but so you understand something. That system didn't make me better. It didn't make me work harder. It made me terrified. It made me think my value as a human being was tied to numbers on a page. It took me years to unlearn that. Years to understand that I was worth loving even when I failed. We're not kicking Emma out, she stammered. No. But you're teaching her the same lesson. That love is conditional. That she has to earn her place in your home, in your heart. And I'm telling you, as someone who lived through a version of that, it doesn't work. It just breaks them. Mrs. Patterson stood abruptly. I think we're done here. Emma is a wonderful kid, I said. She's kind. She's creative. She thinks outside the box. And yes, she struggles with math. But she's 10 years old. She has time to grow. Please, give her that time. The woman grabbed her purse and walked out without another word. I sat there for a long time after she left, hands shaking, wondering if I'd overstepped. If I'd let my own trauma bleed into my professional life in a way I shouldn't have. But the next week, Emma came to class smiling. She told me her mom had hired a tutor and said it was okay if math took her longer to understand. That they'd work on it together. I don't know what changed Mrs. Patterson's mind. Maybe my story. Maybe her own conscience. Maybe she just didn't want to be compared to my parents. But Emma was lighter. Happier. And that was enough. I tell that story not because I think I'm a hero. I'm not. I'm just a teacher trying to do better than what was done to me. Trying to make sure no kid in my classroom ever feels the way I felt at 11, sitting on my bed with garbage bags, wondering what I'd done to deserve abandonment. People ask me sometimes if I've forgiven my parents. If I think about reconciling now that I'm older, now that I understand the world is complicated and people make mistakes. The honest answer is, I don't know. Some days I'm angry. Furious at what they stole from me. The childhood I deserved. The sense of safety I never had. The years I spent believing I had to be perfect to be loved. Other days I'm just sad. Sad that they were so broken themselves that they couldn't see what they were doing. Sad that they missed out on knowing me. Sad that we'll never have the relationship other people have with their parents. And some days, I'm just fine. I don't think about them at all. I live my life. I love my job. I have friends who feel more like family than my blood relatives ever did. I have this house, this solid, safe place that Grandma Rose gave me. I have enough. Maybe that's not forgiveness. Maybe it's just acceptance. Maybe it's healing that doesn't require reconciliation. I'm okay with that. Last week, Jamie called. He's engaged now, planning a wedding for next summer. He asked if I'd be willing to come. I said yes immediately. Then he went quiet. Mom and Dad will be there, he said. Separately. They barely talk now. But they'll both be there. I figured. Will that be weird for you? I thought about it. Really considered it. 5 years ago, the thought of being in the same room as my parents would have sent me into a panic. Even 2 years ago, I would have made an excuse. But now? It'll be fine, I said. I'm coming for you, not for them. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to. I know. And if they say anything, Jamie, I interrupted gently. I can handle them. I'm not 11 anymore. They don't have power over me. He exhaled, relieved. Okay. Good. I want you there. You're the only one who actually feels like family anymore. That hit me square in the chest. I'll be there. I promise. After we hung up, I sat on the porch, Grandma's porch, my porch, and watched the sun set. The sky turned orange and pink and purple, colors bleeding into each other like watercolors on wet paper. I thought about the girl I was at 11. Terrified. Abandoned. Convinced she was broken because she couldn't be perfect. I thought about the woman I am now. Still imperfect. Still making mistakes. But whole. Safe. Loved. Grandma Rose had told me I'd be fine. Better than fine. She was right. The inheritance wasn't just the house or the money or the freedom to build my own life. It was the knowledge that I was worth more than my performance. That I deserved love without conditions. That I could fail and stumble and fall and still be enough. That's what she left me. And it's worth more than any dollar amount. My parents thought they could teach us that worth was earned. That love was a reward for achievement. That family was a contract with terms and conditions. They were wrong. Grandma Rose taught me the truth. Family is who shows up. Who stays. Who sees you at your worst and loves you anyway. And by that definition, she was the only real family I ever had. I miss her every single day. I miss her laugh and her crossword puzzles and the way she'd hum while she cooked. I miss sitting on this porch with her, talking about everything and nothing. But she's still here. In the house. In the lessons she taught me. In the life I'm building, brick by brick, on the foundation she gave me. 7 years after she took me in, she left me everything. But the truth is, she'd already given me everything that mattered long before she died. She gave me a home. She gave me safety. She gave me the radical, transformative knowledge that I was enough, exactly as I was. My parents said rules were rules. Grandma Rose said love was love. And in the end, love won. I'm not the girl in the garbage bags anymore. I'm not the terrified 11-year-old who thought one C meant she was worthless. I'm Claudia Whitmore. I'm a teacher. I'm a granddaughter. I'm a homeowner. I'm a survivor. I'm a woman who learned that worth isn't earned, it's inherent. That grades are just numbers. That failure is just part of being human. And I'm fine. Better than fine. I'm free. The house sits quiet around me as I write this, the evening settling in like a blanket. Tomorrow I'll grade papers and plan lessons and water Grandma's plants, my plants now. I'll live my life. I'll make mistakes and learn from them and keep growing. And somewhere, I like to think Grandma Rose is watching, proud of the woman I've become. Not because I'm perfect. Not because I earned it. But because I'm me. And that was always enough.
Story 2.
At my daughter's 11th birthday party, my uninvited sister showed up and yelled, "Why is that parasite's little brat here? It's my son's celebration today." My mom added, "Surprise. But let's be honest, her son is way better than your daughter." Everyone agreed. I smiled and said, "Sure, I'll leave." But what happened next made them regret ever saying that. I need you to understand something right now. I'm not a vindictive person. I've spent 34 years being the family peacemaker, the one who swallows insults with a smile, the daughter who shows up to every holiday even when my stomach knots up the night before. But there's a moment when something inside you just breaks. And mine broke at my daughter's 11th birthday party, surrounded by pink streamers and a half-eaten unicorn cake, while my own mother told a room full of people that my child didn't matter. Let me back up. My name is Claire, and I have one daughter, Mia. She's everything. Smart, kind, curious about the world in that intense way only children can be. She collects rocks from every place we visit and labels them in careful handwriting. She reads books about marine biology and wants to save the oceans. She's not perfect, she's stubborn, she talks back sometimes, she leaves her socks everywhere, but she's mine and she's wonderful. My sister, Vanessa, has a son named Dylan. He's also 11, born exactly 3 weeks after Mia. This fact has poisoned my relationship with my sister for over a decade, though I didn't realize how deep the rot went until that Saturday afternoon. Growing up, Vanessa was the golden child. Prettier, more outgoing, better at sports, better at everything according to my parents. I was the bookish one, the quiet one, the one who didn't sparkle quite bright enough. When we both got pregnant around the same time in our early 20s, I thought maybe, it would bring us closer. 2 sisters, raising kids together, building a support system. Instead, it became a competition I never agreed to enter. Every milestone became a comparison. Dylan walked first. Mia talked first. Dylan made the soccer team. Mia made the honor roll. Back and forth, except I was the only one who found it exhausting rather than exhilarating. Vanessa would call my mom after every one of Dylan's achievements, and my mom would dutifully pass along the news to me with this tone in her voice, this subtle implication that I should be doing more, pushing harder, making Mia into something more impressive. I stopped engaging. I praised Mia for being herself, not for being better than anyone else. I stopped sharing her accomplishments with my family because they just find ways to diminish them or pivot the conversation back to Dylan. It hurt less to keep her victories private, to celebrate them just with her and my husband, Marcus. This year, Mia's birthday fell on a Saturday. We planned a small party at our house, nothing fancy, just some of her school friends, pizza, games, cake. I specifically did not invite Vanessa or my parents. Not out of spite, but out of exhaustion. The last birthday party we'd all attended together, 2 years ago, had ended with my mom spending the entire time gushing about Dylan's recent science fair win while barely acknowledging Mia. I watched my daughter's face fall, watched her retreat into herself, and I decided then, never again. So this year, I sent invitations to Mia's friends. I ordered a cake with a sea turtle on it because she's obsessed with marine life. I hung up decorations and set up a scavenger hunt in our backyard. Marcus grilled hot dogs and hamburgers. It was supposed to be perfect. For the first 2 hours, it was. Mia was radiant. She wore a blue dress with silver stars on it that she'd picked out herself. Her friends were loud and happy, running through the house in that chaotic way that kids do, playing games, eating too much sugar, laughing. I stood in the kitchen for a moment, just watching through the window as Mia organized everyone for the scavenger hunt, her face bright with joy. That's when I heard the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone else. All of Mia's friends were already here. I walked to the front door, wiping my hands on a dish towel, thinking maybe it was a neighbor or a delivery. I opened the door. Vanessa stood there, Dylan beside her, my mother behind them. All three of them were dressed up, Vanessa in a crisp white blouse and designer jeans, my mom in her church clothes, Dylan in khakis and a button-down shirt. They looked like they were attending a different event entirely. Surprise, my mother said, her voice that particular brand of cheerful that I'd learned to distrust. She pushed past me into the house without waiting for an invitation, carrying a wrapped present that was almost comically large. Vanessa followed, her expression a mix of triumph and something harder to read. We couldn't miss Dylan's cousin's birthday, she said, though her eyes were scanning the living room like she was cataloging everything, looking for flaws. I stood there, hands still on the door, my brain trying to catch up. I didn't invite you, I said, keeping my voice level. Well, that was just an oversight, I'm sure, my mother said, setting the enormous present down on the coffee table. We're family. Of course we'd be here. Dylan had already wandered toward the back door, drawn by the sounds of kids playing outside. Mia's voice floated in, okay, Team Blue, you search by the fence. And then suddenly stopped. I felt it before I saw it. That shift in the air, like right before a thunderstorm. I followed everyone to the backyard. Mia had frozen mid-step, staring at Dylan. Her friends looked confused, their game interrupted. Marcus had turned from the grill, spatula in hand, his expression darkening as he took in our unexpected guests. Hi, Mia, Dylan said casually. He was a nice enough kid, honestly. This wasn't his fault. Hi, Mia said quietly. She looked at me, and I saw the question in her eyes, why are they here? Vanessa surveyed the backyard with barely concealed disdain. The decorations I thought were charming suddenly felt childish under her gaze. Cute setup, she said in a tone that made it clear she thought it was anything but. My mother clapped her hands together. Well, now that we're all here, we have some exciting news. I didn't like where this was going. Mom, Dylan, Vanessa said, cutting me off, come here, sweetie. Dylan walked over to his mother, looking uncertain. Vanessa put her hands on his shoulders, positioning him like he was about to receive an award. We have an announcement, my mother continued, her voice carrying across the yard, demanding everyone's attention. Mia's friends went quiet, sensing the adult tension even if they didn't understand it. Dylan just found out this week that he's been accepted into the Metropolitan Young Scholars Program. It's extremely prestigious, very selective. We're so proud of him. A few of Mia's friends' parents, who had stuck around to help supervise, made polite congratulatory noises. I felt Marcus move closer to me, a protective gesture. That's great, I managed. But this is Mia's birthday party. Maybe we could. Well, we thought what better way to celebrate Dylan's achievement than to share it with family. My mother beamed. She pulled out her phone. I already posted about it on social media. Everyone's been so supportive. The Johnsons sent flowers, the Prescotts took us out to dinner last night. I watched Mia's face. She'd gone very still, her earlier joy evaporating. Her hands were clenched at her sides. That's wonderful for Dylan, I said, trying to steer this back to sanity. But today is Mia's day. It's her birthday. We're in the middle of her party. Vanessa laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. Oh, come on, Claire. Don't be selfish. This is a family celebration now. We can celebrate both of them. Except you're not celebrating both of them, Marcus said, his voice tight. You showed up uninvited to Mia's party to make it about Dylan. It's not about making it about anyone, my mother said, but her tone had sharpened. It's about family supporting each other. You've always been so sensitive, Claire. So dramatic. That word. Dramatic. I'd heard it my entire life, any time I tried to set a boundary or express discomfort. Dramatic. Sensitive. Overreacting. I think you should leave, I said quietly. The backyard went silent. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. Vanessa's eyes widened, then narrowed. Excuse me? This is Mia's birthday party. You weren't invited. You showed up anyway and tried to hijack it for Dylan. I'm asking you to leave. My mother's face flushed red. How dare you? We're your family. We came here to what? I asked, and I could hear my voice starting to shake. To celebrate Mia? You haven't said happy birthday to her once since you arrived. You walked past her without even acknowledging her. That's not true, my mother snapped, but she was lying and everyone knew it. Then Vanessa said it. The thing that broke everything. Why is that parasite's little brat even the focus here? She shouted, her voice echoing off the fence. It's my son's celebration today. He's the one who actually accomplished something. The world tilted. Several of the parents gasped. Mia made a small sound, like she'd been slapped. Marcus took a step forward, but I held up my hand. This was mine to handle. What did you just call my daughter? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. Vanessa had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable, but she doubled down. I'm just saying, Dylan's achievement is objectively more important than a birthday. Birthdays happen every year. This scholarship is once in a lifetime. My mother nodded, actually nodded, in agreement. She has a point, Claire. Let's be honest, Dylan's always been more accomplished than Mia. He's more athletic, more social, more driven. It makes sense to prioritize, get out. I wasn't shaking anymore. I was cold, clear, absolutely certain. Get out of my house right now. You're being ridiculous, my mother said. And then the thing that still haunts me, several of Mia's friends' parents, people I thought were decent human beings, people from the PTA in the neighborhood, shifted uncomfortably, and one of them, Jennifer, who I'd had coffee with just last week, said quietly, the scholarship program is very impressive. Another parent, Thomas, added, maybe we could just combine the celebrations? Split the cake or something? They were agreeing with her. With them. They were standing in my backyard, at my daughter's birthday party, agreeing that my child mattered less. I looked at Mia. She had tears streaming down her face, silent and devastating. Her friends had clustered around her protectively, confused and upset, but she looked small in a way that made my heart physically hurt. And I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Marcus told me later that it was the most terrifying expression he'd ever seen on my face. Sure, I said calmly. You're absolutely right. I'll leave. My mother blinked, thrown by my sudden acquiescence. What? You want this to be Dylan's party? Fine. It's Dylan's party. Mia and I will leave. You all can stay and celebrate without us. Claire, Marcus started. I turned to Mia. Baby, go pack a bag. Just some clothes and whatever you want to bring. We're going on an adventure. Mia stared at me, tears still on her cheeks. What? Trust me. Go pack. 5 minutes. She hesitated, then ran inside. Marcus followed her, shooting me a confused look. I kept smiling at my family, at the parents who'd betrayed us, at all of them. Claire, don't be childish, my mother said. We don't want you to actually leave. We just think. I know exactly what you think, I said. You've made it very clear. So enjoy the party. The pizza's in the kitchen, the cake is in the fridge. Have a wonderful celebration of Dylan's achievement. Vanessa looked suspicious now. What are you doing? Exactly what you wanted. Leaving my daughter's birthday party so it can be about your son instead. I walked inside. My hands were steady as I grabbed my purse, my phone, my keys. Mia came down with her backpack, confusion and hurt still written all over her face. Marcus had a bag too, he packed for himself without me even asking. Where are we going? Mia whispered. Somewhere better, I said. We walked out through the house, past the living room where that enormous presence still sat, past the kitchen with its carefully prepared food. I could hear Vanessa and my mother arguing with the parents who remained, their voices rising in confusion and irritation. We got in the car. Mia climbed in the back, Marcus in the passenger seat. Claire, Marcus said carefully. What's the plan here? I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. Do you remember my college roommate, Rebecca? The one who owns the events company? Yeah. And do you remember what she offered last year? Understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. The venue. The venue, I confirmed. Rebecca had started an event planning business 5 years ago, and it had exploded into success. She owned a gorgeous property an hour outside the city, a renovated barn with string lights and gardens, and a genuine party setup that she rented out for weddings and corporate events. Last year, she told me that if I ever needed it, I could use it free of charge, anytime, for any reason. "You've been there for me through everything," she'd said. Consider it a standing offer. I'd never taken her up on it. Until now. I called her while Marcus pulled up directions. She answered on the second ring. "Claire. What's up? Remember that offer? The venue?" "Of course. Is it available today? Right now?" There was a pause. "It is, actually. Wedding cancelled last week. But Claire, what's going on? You sound, I need it for a birthday party. For Mia. I'll explain everything later, but Rebecca, I need you to trust me. Can you help?" "Absolutely. Come on over. I'll start setting things up. How many people?" I looked at Mia in the rearview mirror. She was clutching her backpack, watching me with wide eyes. "Right now? 3. But that's going to change. Rebecca, I need a favor. A big one." "Name it." "Can you call the Sunrise Bounce Castle Company? Tell them I need everything they can deliver in the next 2 hours. And the Skyline Catering? Same thing, whatever they can put together on emergency notice. I don't care about the cost. And flowers, call your florist, tell them I need something magical. And? Rebecca's voice had shifted from confused to intrigued. "And can you reach out to the Glitter Squad? Tell them I'll pay triple their usual rate for an immediate booking." The Glitter Squad was a face painting and entertainment company that Mia had mentioned wistfully last month after seeing them at a friend's party. I told her maybe next year because they were expensive. There wasn't going to be a next year with my family involved. This was it. "Done," Rebecca said. "Get here safely. I'll make some calls." I hung up and met Mia's eyes in the mirror. "Mom, what's happening?" Her voice was small, uncertain. "What's happening," I said, starting the car, "is that you're going to have the birthday party you deserve. With people who actually care about you. Your friends can catch up on Monday, but today? Today is just for you, sweetheart. No cousins, no comparisons, no competitions. Just your dad and me celebrating the most amazing 11-year-old in the world." "But everyone back at the house made their choice," Marcus said gently, reaching back to squeeze her hand. "They chose wrong. We drove away from our house, away from the party that had turned poisonous, away from family who couldn't see what was precious when it was right in front of them." My phone started ringing almost immediately. My mother. Then Vanessa. Then my mother again. I declined every call. Then text messages started flooding in. "How dare you abandon your own daughter's party? You're being immature. Come back right now. Everyone is confused and upset. You've embarrassed the whole family." I blocked them. All of them. Just temporarily, just for today. Today was not about their feelings. The drive to Rebecca's venue took exactly 53 minutes. Mia dozed off in the back, exhausted from the emotional whiplash. Marcus and I didn't talk much. He just kept his hand on my knee, a steady pressure that meant "I'm here, I'm with you, we've got this." When we pulled up to the property, Rebecca was waiting outside the main building, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing animatedly. She hung up when she saw us and rushed over. "Okay," she said, pulling me into a quick hug. "Everything's in motion. Bounce castles arrive in 90 minutes. Catering in 45. The Glitter Squad is sending their best team, they'll be here in an hour. And my florist is literally creating something custom right now. She's calling it Ocean Dreams because I told her about Mia's sea turtle obsession." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Rebecca, I can't. You can and you will. Now get inside. I've got the main hall set up already. Mia can help me arrange things however she wants. This is her party, her rules." Mia had woken up when the cars stopped. She climbed out slowly, looking at the beautiful barn-style building with its twinkling lights and surrounding gardens. "Is this your birthday party?" I said. "Version 2.0. Better in every way." Her face transformed. The hurt was still there, I could see it, but underneath, something else was emerging. Hope. Excitement. That spark I'd seen in the backyard before everything went wrong. Rebecca led us inside. The main hall was stunning, high ceilings with exposed beams, hardwood floors, enormous windows that let in golden afternoon light. She'd already started setting up tables and chairs. "Okay, birthday girl," Rebecca said, crouching down to Mia's level. "This is your space. How do you want it to look?" For the first time since we'd left the house, Mia smiled. Really smiled. Can we make it look like underwater? Like, ocean-themed? Yes, Rebecca said firmly. Absolutely yes. I have blue and green fabrics we can drape. We can set up the lighting to look like water reflections. And I have these glass spheres we can fill with blue and green lights that look like bubbles. Mia's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Come on, let's start planning. They disappeared into a back room to look at decorations. Marcus and I stood in the middle of the hall, and suddenly I felt it all catch up to me. The adrenaline, the anger, the hurt, the fierce protective love, all of it crashing down at once. Did I do the right thing? I whispered. Marcus pulled me close. You did the only thing. Claire, they called our daughter a parasite brat. At her own birthday party. In front of her friends. What did they think was going to happen? They thought I'd just take it. Like I always do. But you didn't. He pulled back to look at me. You didn't take it, and you didn't just defend her with words. You showed her that she's worth more than that. Worth walking away from toxic people, even if they're family. That's going to stick with her forever. I nodded against his chest, trying to compose myself before Mia came back. The next 2 hours were a blur of organized chaos. The caterers arrived with an incredible spread, not just pizza and hot dogs, but a taco bar, a pasta station, fresh fruit displays, and fancy lemonades. The bounce castles went up, not just one, but 3 different inflatable attractions, including a massive obstacle course. The glitter squad showed up with 2 artists, a balloon artist, and someone who did temporary glitter tattoos. Rebecca's florist outdid herself. She created centerpieces that looked like coral reefs, with blue and teal flowers arranged around little toy sea turtles. There were strands of pearls and shells woven throughout, and LED lights hidden in the arrangements that made everything glow. But the best part was watching Mia transform. She and Rebecca worked together to drape blue and turquoise fabrics from the ceiling beams, creating this amazing effect like being under the ocean. They set up the glass spheres with colored lights. They arranged tables and chairs, testing different configurations until Mia was satisfied. Mom, she called at one point. Can we set up a science station? Like, with ocean facts and maybe some shells people can look at? Whatever you want, baby. So we did. Rebecca found poster boards, and Mia and I worked together to create little fact cards about marine life, coral reef conservation, sea turtle migration. We set up a table with shells we had at home, plus some Rebecca pulled from her own collection. It became this interactive learning corner that was so perfectly Mia that I wanted to cry. By the time everything was set up, it looked like a completely different party from the one we'd left behind. This was magical. This was special. This was everything I'd wanted for her and more. Should we invite her friends? Marcus asked quietly. I'd been thinking about that. Text their parents. The ones who didn't agree with Vanessa. Tell them where we are, tell them we'd love for them to come if they want. But no pressure. He nodded and started sending messages. My phone was still blowing up with calls and texts from my family, but I'd stopped looking. Whatever they were saying didn't matter anymore. 20 minutes later, cars started arriving. First came Mia's best friend Sophia and her mom, who rushed in apologizing profusely. I left as soon as you did, she said. I couldn't believe what they said. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up louder. Then more of Mia's friends trickled in with their parents. Not all of them, some had stayed at the original party, and I noted who they were, but enough. Enough to fill the hall with laughter and joy. Enough to show Mia that she was valued, that people chose to come celebrate her specifically. Each arrival was greeted with amazement at the setup. The kids went wild for the bounce castles. The face painting station had a line. The food disappeared rapidly. The glitter tattoo artist couldn't keep up with demand. And Mia. Mia was radiant. She ran from activity to activity, her friends around her, her laughter echoing off the walls. The hurt from earlier wasn't gone, I could see it resurface in quiet moments, but it was being overshadowed by this, by joy, by feeling genuinely celebrated. Rebecca pulled me aside at one point. Your phone is ringing again. I know. I'm not answering. It's not your mom this time. It's a number I don't recognize, but they've called twice. Curiosity got the better of me. I checked. The number had left a voicemail. I stepped outside to listen to it. Ms. Chen, this is Officer Patricia Valdez with the local police department. We received a call about a possible parental kidnapping? The caller stated that you removed a minor from a birthday party without proper permission and, a pause, some muffled conversation in the background. I'm sorry, I'm being told this is a family dispute and the child is your daughter, not someone else's child. Please disregard this message. Have a nice day. I stared at my phone. They called the police. My family had actually called the police and tried to report me for kidnapping my own child. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was so absurd, so desperately manipulative, so perfectly in character for them. Marcus came out. What's wrong? They called the cops. Said I kidnapped Mia. His face went dark. They did what? The police already figured out it was nonsense. But Marcus. They really went there. That's it, he said. That's past the point of no return. He was right. This wasn't a fight we could recover from. This was a fundamental severing. I know, I said quietly. We went back inside. I wasn't going to let them ruin this day any more than they already had. As the sun started to set, Rebecca brought out the cake. Not the sea turtle cake from home, that was probably being eaten by people who thought Dylan's achievement was more important than my daughter's birthday. This was a new cake, something Rebecca's backup caterer had thrown together on emergency notice, a 2-tier masterpiece decorated to look like an ocean wave, with blue ombre frosting and fondant fish swimming through it. On top, in silver letters, "Happy birthday, Mia, you are extraordinary." We sang happy birthday. Mia blew out 11 candles surrounded by friends who'd chosen to come celebrate her, in a space that had been transformed into something magical specifically for her, at a party that existed because I'd finally said enough. When she looked at me over the glowing candles, her eyes were bright with tears, but this time they were happy tears. Later, after most of the guests had left and it was just us, Rebecca, and a couple lingering families helping clean up, Mia came and sat next to me on one of the decorative benches. Mom? Yeah, baby? What's going to happen with Grandma and Aunt Vanessa? I'd been dreading this question, but she deserved an honest answer. I don't know exactly, I said. But I know things are going to be different from now on. Because of what they said about me? Because of how they treated you. How they've always treated you, really. I didn't protect you from it well enough before. That's on me. But I'm not going to let it happen anymore. She was quiet for a moment, picking at a loose thread on her dress. Emily's mom said that sometimes families are toxic. Is that what ours is? Emily was one of her friends, a sharp kid with divorced parents. Part of it is, yeah. Are you sad? I thought about it. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But sad? Not really. I'm more sad about the time I wasted trying to make them proud, trying to force a relationship that they didn't value. I'm not sad about protecting you. I heard what Aunt Vanessa called me, Mia said quietly. The parasite thing. My heart clenched. I'm so sorry you heard that. Is that what they really think of me? I think Vanessa is jealous and small-minded, and sometimes people like that say terrible things to make themselves feel bigger. But it says everything about her and nothing about you. You're not a parasite. You're not a brat. You're kind and smart and funny and curious, and anyone who can't see that isn't worth your time. Even if they're family? Especially if they're family. Being related to someone doesn't give them the right to hurt you. She nodded slowly, processing. Then, this party was way better than the one at home. I laughed. Yeah? Yeah. The other one had more people, but this one felt like it was actually for me. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Marcus came over and ruffled her hair. How's the birthday girl holding up? Good, Mia said. She stood up and hugged me tight. Thanks for leaving, Mom. Thanks for making this happen. Always, I whispered into her hair. Always. The aftermath unfolded over the next few days like a slow-motion car crash. My mother showed up at our house Sunday morning, ringing the doorbell repeatedly. I didn't answer. She called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail that started with "I can't believe how selfish you're being" and ended with "You're tearing this family apart," and I deleted it without finishing. Vanessa sent a long text message that I only skimmed, something about how I'd embarrassed her in front of Dylan's friend's parents, who apparently had arrived later, how I'd ruined a special day for Dylan, how I was always making everything about me. The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. But the thing that surprised me was the support. Sophia's mom, Jennifer, the one who'd initially seemed to agree with Vanessa, called Monday and apologized profusely. I got caught up in the moment, she said. I was trying to be diplomatic, but I should have defended Mia immediately. What they said was horrible. I'm so sorry. Other parents reached out too. Some had left the original party in protest after we did. Some stayed but felt uncomfortable. All of them wanted to make sure Mia was okay, that we were okay. The story spread through the school parent network like wildfire. Within 48 hours, everyone knew some version of what had happened. Most people were appalled at my family's behavior. A few took Vanessa's side. Apparently, she was spinning it as me being unreasonable and unable to share the spotlight, but they were in the minority. On Wednesday, the school counselor called me in. She'd heard about the incident from some of the parents and wanted to check on Mia. "She seems okay," Mrs. Lopez said carefully. "But something like that can have lasting effects." "Has she talked about it?" "Some," I said. "She's processing." "And you? How are you handling it?" I hadn't expected the question to be about me. "I'm managing." Mrs. Lopez nodded. Standing up to family is one of the hardest things a person can do. Especially when they're the family you grew up with. You did a brave thing, Claire. Not just for Mia, but for yourself. I felt unexpected tears. It didn't feel brave. It felt like survival. That's often what bravery is. Doing what you need to do even when you're scared or hurt. That weekend, exactly 1 week after the party, my father called. Dad had been mostly absent from the family drama over the years, not because he was particularly supportive, but because he was passive, letting my mother drive most of the family dynamics. Hearing his voice surprised me. "Claire," he said. "We need to talk. If this is about the party, it's about your mother and sister, yes. But not the way you think." I waited. "They've been calling me all week. Crying, complaining, saying you've cut them off completely and won't return their calls." "That's accurate." "Claire, I know what they said. I heard about it. I wasn't there, but I heard. Okay? And I want you to know. They were wrong. What Vanessa said was unforgivable. What your mother said was almost as bad. I should have said this years ago, but I'm saying it now, the way they've compared those kids, the way they've always favored Dylan over Mia, it's not right. It never has been." I sat down heavily on the couch, stunned. "Why didn't you say something before?" "Because I'm a coward," he said simply. "Because it was easier to stay quiet than to deal with your mother's anger. But this crossed the line even for me. I told your mother that if she wants to repair this, she needs to apologize to you and Mia properly. Actually mean it. And Vanessa needs to do the same." "And what did Mom say to that?" A long pause. "She said you should apologize first for embarrassing them." I laughed bitterly. Of course she did. I'm not defending her, Claire. I'm just telling you where things stand. But I wanted you to know that I'm on your side. I'm on Mia's side. If your mother can't see what she's done wrong, then, well, that's her choice to make. But it doesn't have to be yours." We talked for a few more minutes. It wasn't a magic fix-it conversation. Dad had his own complicity in years of enabling their behavior, but it was something. A crack in the unified family front I'd been battling. 2 weeks after the party, I got a message from Dylan. He'd gotten my number somehow, probably from my dad, and sent a simple text, "Unclear, I'm sorry about what my mom said. Mia didn't deserve that. Can you tell her happy birthday from me?" I showed it to Mia. She read it twice, then said, "It's not his fault." "No," I agreed. "It's not." "Can I text him back?" "If you want to." She took my phone and typed carefully, "Thanks, Dylan. It's okay. See you at school." They were in different classes but the same grade. They'd been friendly before all this, in that distant cousin way. Maybe they could be again, without the weight of our mother's competition hanging over them. Kids were resilient like that. A month later, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. An actual handwritten letter on my mother's formal stationery, the kind she used for thank you notes and holiday cards. My hands shook as I opened it. "Dear Claire, your father has made it clear that I need to apologize for what happened at Mia's birthday party. After much consideration, I've decided to write this letter. I want you to understand that we never intended to hurt Mia. We were simply excited about Dylan's achievement and thought we could celebrate both occasions together. Perhaps our timing was poor. Perhaps we should have called first. However, I do think your reaction was extreme. Walking out on your own daughter's party, taking her away from her friends, refusing to answer our calls for weeks, these actions have caused significant family distress. Vanessa has been devastated by your refusal to speak with her. I've had to explain to relatives why you're not attending family events anymore. That being said, If what Vanessa said upset you, then I suppose an apology is warranted. So I apologize if you felt hurt by her words. They came from a place of frustration, not malice. I hope we can move past this and return to being a family. Holidays are coming up, and it would be good for the children to spend time together. Perhaps we can all sit down and discuss how to move forward in a way that works for everyone. Please call me when you're ready to talk like adults about this. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times, feeling my blood pressure rise with each pass. If you felt hurt, I suppose an apology is warranted. Talk like adults. This wasn't an apology. This was a masterclass in non-apology, wrapped in just enough pseudo-contrition to give her plausible deniability. She was sorry I felt bad, not sorry for what actually happened. She was framing my boundary setting as childish drama while positioning herself as the reasonable one trying to fix things. I showed it to Marcus. He read it once and tossed it on the counter. So that's a no on Thanksgiving, I take it? Despite everything, I laughed. That's a definite no. Good. I was already planning a menu for just the 3 of us anyway. Maybe invite Rebecca and her family since she saved the day. Marcus? Yeah? Thank you for not once suggesting I should just make peace with them. For not saying their family and I should try harder. He pulled me close. Some family isn't worth keeping. I learned that with my own parents years ago. The family we choose, the people who show up for us when it matters, that's the family that counts. I kept the letter. Not because I treasured it, but because I wanted documentation. Proof that she'd been given a chance and chosen to waste it. Vanessa never did apologize. Not directly to me, anyway. But I heard through the grapevine, school parents, mutual acquaintances, that she'd been complaining for weeks about how I'd overreacted and couldn't handle Dylan's success. She'd apparently told multiple people that she was the wrong party here, that I was jealous of her son. The funny thing was, the more she talked, the worse she looked. People who might have been on the fence, who might have bought into the family drama being complicated and two-sided, started seeing through it. Because she couldn't stop herself from saying subtly cruel things about Mia even in her own defense. Of course Mia's a nice kid, but Dylan is exceptional. I'm sure Claire does her best, but some children are just naturally more gifted. She was proving my point better than I ever could have. By the time October rolled around, the social fallout had settled into a new normal. My family wasn't invited to school events that we hosted. We weren't on the same birthday party circuits anymore. The few relatives who reached out trying to mediate eventually gave up when I made it clear I wasn't interested in meeting halfway or keeping the peace. Mia seemed okay. Better than okay, actually. There was a lightness to her that I hadn't fully appreciated was missing before. She wasn't looking over her shoulder waiting for comparisons anymore. She wasn't bracing herself for someone to diminish her accomplishments or redirect attention to Dylan. In November, she came home with a permission slip for a marine biology field trip to the aquarium. She was bouncing with excitement. Can I go? Please. It's 3 days and we stay overnight in the aquarium after it closes and we get to help feed the sea turtles and there's a workshop on ocean conservation and… Yes, I said, smiling at her enthusiasm. Absolutely yes. It's kind of expensive, she said, suddenly cautious. If it's too much, I understand, Mia. We can afford it. And even if it was a stretch, we'd make it work. This is exactly the kind of thing you should be doing. She threw her arms around me. Thanks, Mom. Later that week, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Claire Chen? Yes. My name is Dr. Andrea Liu. I'm a marine biologist and the coordinator for the aquarium field trip your daughter signed up for. I'm calling because her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, mentioned that Mia is exceptionally knowledgeable about marine life and shows real passion for the subject. My heart swelled. She does. She's wanted to study the ocean for years. Well, we have a program I wanted to tell you about. It's a youth mentorship initiative where we pair interested middle schoolers with working scientists. It's a 6-month program, meeting twice a month, doing hands-on research and learning about careers in marine science. Mia's teacher thought she'd be perfect for it. That sounds amazing, I said. What would she need to do to apply? That's the thing, based on Mrs. Patterson's recommendation and Mia's application for the field trip, we'd like to offer her a spot directly. The program is selective, but we have 1 opening left and we think Mia would be an excellent fit. I was quiet for a moment, overwhelmed. She'd love that. She would absolutely love that. Wonderful. I'll send you the information packet. There is a small fee to cover materials, But we have scholarships available if needed. The fee is fine. Thank you so much for thinking of her. When I told Mia that night, she burst into tears. Happy tears, shocked tears, disbelieving tears. Really? They picked me? But I haven't even done anything special yet. You've been passionate and curious and dedicated, I said. That's special, Mia. That's exactly what they're looking for. She went to bed that night clutching the information packet I printed out, reading it over and over like it might disappear if she didn't memorize it. The following morning, my phone rang. My mother. I hadn't blocked her permanently, just silenced her notifications. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then answered. Hello? Claire. Her voice was tight. I heard through Margaret Porter that Mia got into some special science program. Margaret Porter was a family friend who must have heard from someone at school. The gossip chain was alive and well. She did, I said carefully. That's wonderful. Good for her. The words sounded like they were being pulled out of her with pliers. I waited. I wanted to call and say congratulations. To Mia. It sounds like a real opportunity. It is. A long pause. Claire, I've been thinking about the letter I sent. Your father said it wasn't adequate. It wasn't. I'm not good at this, she said, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely uncertain. I'm not good at admitting when I'm wrong. I never have been. I know. What Vanessa said at the party, what I didn't stop her from saying, it was cruel. It was wrong. Mia is a good kid. A great kid. And I've spent so long comparing her to Dylan that I stopped seeing her for who she actually is. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the possibility of it, someday. Why? I asked quietly. Why did you do that? Compare them constantly, favor Dylan, make everything a competition? She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, because Dylan reminded me of Vanessa at that age. Outgoing, confident, easy. And Mia reminded me of you. Quiet, thoughtful, always in your own head. And I didn't know how to value that when you were growing up. I pushed you to be more like your sister, and when you couldn't be, I saw it as a failure. Yours and mine. The honesty was startling. Painful. So you repeated the same pattern with Mia? Yes. And I'm sorry. I'm genuinely, truly sorry. Not for how you felt, for what I did. For what I failed to do as a mother and a grandmother. I sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. Mom, this is a start. But it's only a start. You hurt my daughter in a really fundamental way. You let Vanessa call her a parasite's brat and then try to justify it. That's not something I can just move past because of one phone call. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if. Maybe at some point. We could try again. Differently this time. What about Vanessa? Vanessa is still angry. She thinks she's the victim here. I don't know if she's going to come around anytime soon. Then it's just you? Just me? If you'll have me. I thought about it. About Mia losing her grandmother entirely versus having the possibility of a healthier relationship. About modeling forgiveness without being a doormat. About second chances and firm boundaries. Here's what I need, I said finally. If you want back in our lives, you need to respect that Mia is not in competition with Dylan. You need to celebrate her achievements without comparing them to his. You need to bite your tongue if Vanessa starts in on the comparison game. You need to actually show up for Mia as herself, not as a reflection of me or you or anyone else. I can do that. And if you slip up, because you probably will, you need to acknowledge it and correct it. Immediately. No excuses, no minimizing. Okay. And Mom? Vanessa isn't welcome around us until she genuinely apologizes to Mia. Not to me, to Mia. For what she said and how she said it. That's non-negotiable. I understand. Then maybe we can try. Slowly. No big family gatherings. Just coffee, maybe, or a short visit. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Claire. I know I don't deserve, you don't, I said, not unkindly. But Mia deserves a grandmother who sees her value. So let's see if you can be that person. We hung up shortly after. I felt wrung out, emotionally depleted, but also lighter somehow. Like I'd been carrying around the weight of family expectations for so long that even setting it down partway felt revolutionary. Marcus came home to find me staring at my phone, processing. Your mom? He asked. Yeah. She apologized. Actually apologized this time. How do you feel about that? Complicated. Cautious. But maybe hopeful? He kissed the top of my head. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Just protect Mia first. Always. The marine biology mentorship program started in December. Mia came home from the first session absolutely glowing, talking a mile a minute about water quality testing and the researcher she'd been paired with and the baby sea turtle they were monitoring. Mom, did you know that sea turtles can live for over 100 years? And they return to the exact same beach where they were born to lay their eggs? How do they even remember? Dr. Liu says it might be magnetic fields in the earth helping them navigate, but nobody knows for sure. Isn't that amazing? There's so much we don't know yet. I watched her unpack her bag, pulling out worksheets and pamphlets and a notebook already half filled with careful observations, and I thought about the alternate timeline. The one where I'd stayed at that first party, swallowed the insults, taught Mia to make herself smaller to keep the peace. She wouldn't be this person in that timeline. This passionate, confident, undiminished person. Christmas came. We didn't do the traditional family gathering. Instead, we had a small celebration, just us, Rebecca and her family, and my dad, who'd driven down specifically to see Mia and give her a present, a beautiful hardcover book on marine biology with a note that said, "To my granddaughter, who knows the value of diving deep." Mia read the note 3 times, then hugged him tight. "Thanks, Grandpa. I'm proud of you, kiddo," he said gruffly. "Not because you're better than anyone else. Just because you're you." In January, my mother asked if she could take Mia to lunch. Just the 2 of them. I asked Mia if she wanted to go. "You don't have to," I said. "If you're not ready, that's completely okay." Mia considered it. "Will she be nice to me?" "I think she's trying to be. But if she's not, you call me immediately and I'll come get you." "Okay. I'll try." They went to lunch at a quiet cafe. Mia came home 2 hours later, thoughtful but not upset. "How was it?" I asked. "Weird. But kind of good?" She asked about my program and actually listened. She didn't mention Dylan once. She said she was sorry for not paying more attention to me before. How did that feel? I don't know yet. But it felt real, I think. Like she meant it. "That's a start," I said. "Yeah." Over the following months, my mother took small steps. She came to one of Mia's program presentations at the aquarium. She sent cards for no reason, just little notes saying she was thinking of Mia. She was careful, tentative, trying in a way I'd never seen her try before. It wasn't perfect. She still sometimes said things that revealed her old mindset, little comments about achievement or comparison, but she caught herself now. Apologized. Corrected course. Vanessa never apologized. Not to Mia, not to me. From what I heard, she'd doubled down on her narrative. I was the unstable one, she'd done nothing wrong, I was keeping the family apart out of spite. Dylan, meanwhile, had started asking his mom why they never saw us anymore. Apparently, he missed Mia. He told Vanessa he thought what she said at the party was mean. She dismissed his concerns, told him he was too young to understand the adult situation. He was 11. The same age Mia had been when she was called a parasite's brat. Old enough to understand cruelty when he saw it. My father told me Dylan had started pushing back against his mother's constant pressure to achieve, to be the best, to outshine everyone. He told Vanessa he didn't want to do the winter soccer league because it wasn't fun anymore, Dad said. Just pressure to win. She signed him up anyway. The cycle continuing. The same patterns, eating away at another child. I felt bad for Dylan. None of this was his fault. But I couldn't fix Vanessa's parenting. I could only protect my own daughter. In March, the aquarium program held a showcase where the mentees presented their research projects. Mia had worked for months on a presentation about microplastics in local waterways, complete with water samples she'd collected, data she'd analyzed, and proposed community solutions. She stood in front of a room of scientists, educators, parents, and students, and delivered her presentation with confidence and passion. She fielded questions from marine biologists. She explained her methodology, her findings, her conclusions. I watched from the audience, Marcus beside me, my mother in the row behind us, and I felt it, pride, pure and uncomplicated. Not pride that she'd beaten someone else or proved anyone wrong. Just pride in who she was becoming. After the presentation, as people milled around looking at the displays, a woman approached me. "Are you Mia's mother?" "Yes," I said. I'm Dr. Patterson from the University Marine Sciences Department. I was incredibly impressed by your daughter's work. She has real potential. Has she thought about our summer youth research program? It's residential, 2 weeks at our coastal research station. We take high school students usually, but I think Mia would benefit enormously. She's only 11, I said, surprised. I know. But sometimes you see a student who's just ready, you know? Who has the maturity and the passion to handle more advanced work. I think Mia is one of those students. I looked over at Mia. She was explaining her project to a group of adults, gesturing animatedly at her charts, completely in her element. Let me talk to her, I said. See if it's something she'd want. Mia wanted it. Of course she wanted it. That summer, we drove her up to the coastal research station. She was nervous but excited, her suitcase packed with notebooks and field guides and the sea turtle stuffed animal she'd had since she was 3. What if I'm not good enough? She asked the night before we left. What if everyone else is smarter? Then you'll learn from them, I said. That's the point. You're not there to be the best. You're there to grow. That's what Grandma used to care about, right? Being the best? Yeah. That's what she used to care about. Do you think she's really changed? I considered the question honestly. I think she's trying to change. I think she sees now that the way she measured success was broken. But changing patterns you've had your whole life is hard. She'll probably mess up sometimes. But you'll protect me if she does? Always. Every single time. She nodded, reassured. The 2 weeks Mia spent at the research station were transformative. She came back tanned and tired and absolutely buzzing with new knowledge. She'd worked on tagging sea turtles. She'd collected data on nesting sites. She'd stayed up late talking with the other students about conservation and science and futures that felt suddenly, tangibly possible. Mom, she said on the drive home, I think I want to be a marine biologist. For real. As my actual job. Then that's what you'll be, I said. But it's really hard, right? You need good grades and you have to go to college for a long time and you'll do it. Because you're smart and dedicated and you actually care about the work. That matters more than anything. She smiled, looking out the window at the passing landscape. Thanks for the party, Mom. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror, confused. What party? My 11th birthday. The second one, at Rebecca's place. I know we don't really talk about it anymore, but... Thanks for leading the first party. Thanks for showing me that I matter enough to walk away from people who are mean. Even if they're family. My throat got tight. You're welcome, baby. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I know. That's what makes it matter. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Mia said, casually, Dylan texted me yesterday. Oh yeah? He said his mom is making him crazy with all the pressure about school and sports and stuff. He asked if maybe sometime he could come over, just to hang out, and not have to be perfect at everything. What did you say? I said yeah. If you say it's okay. He's my cousin. And it's not his fault his mom is the way she is. I thought about it. About Vanessa's likely reaction, about boundaries, about innocent kids caught in adult dysfunction. If Dylan wants to come over, he's welcome, I said finally. But it has to be clear it's just Dylan. Not a family reconciliation, not a chance for Vanessa to push her way back in. Just Dylan spending time with family who won't put conditions on loving him. Got it, Mia said. Dylan started coming over once a month or so. Just casual visits, playing video games, watching movies, swimming in our pool. Sometimes he'd talk about the pressure he felt, the constant comparisons, the sense that nothing he did was ever quite enough for his mom. It's exhausting, he said once, sitting at our kitchen table eating cookies. She wants me to be the best at everything. But I'm not. I'm just me. And sometimes me wants to just read a book or hang out, you know. That's completely normal, I told him. You're allowed to just be yourself. Mia gets to do that, he said, glancing at my daughter, who was absorbed in a book about oceanography. Your family is different. Your family could be different too, Mia said, looking up. You just have to tell your mom you're not going to do everything she wants. She'll freak out. Probably. But she'll get over it. Or she won't, and you'll know where you stand. 11-year-old wisdom, hard-earned. Dylan ended up telling Vanessa he wanted to quit soccer. She did indeed freak out. There was a huge fight. But Dylan held firm, and eventually, worn down by his persistence, she relented. I heard about it through my father, who was cautiously proud of his grandson for setting a boundary. Vanessa, predictably, blamed me. Told everyone I was poisoning Dylan against her, turning him into an ungrateful child who didn't appreciate everything she'd done for him. I didn't respond to her accusations. Didn't engage. I'd learned that lesson already. As autumn arrived again, bringing Mia's 12th birthday with it, she had a request. Can we do another party like last year? At Rebecca's place? You don't want to do something at home? Invite more people? She shook her head. I like how last year was just people who really wanted to celebrate me. I don't need a big party. I just need a good one. So we did it again. Smaller this time, even more intentional. Mia's closest friends, Rebecca and her family, my father, my mother, who'd been cautiously rebuilding her relationship with Mia over the past year, Marcus's parents who'd driven in from out of state, and a few of Mia's mentors from the aquarium program. Dylan asked if he could come. My birthday's the same week, remember? And I'd rather celebrate with you guys than have another competition party my mom will try to throw. You should ask your mom first, I said carefully. I did. She said no. Then I told her I was coming anyway, and that she could either drive me or I'd ask Grandpa to bring me. So she said fine, but she's not coming herself. That's okay, Mia said. You're still welcome. The party was beautiful. Rebecca had outdone herself again, this time with an ocean conservation theme, decorations made from recycled materials, educational displays about environmental protection, even a representative from a local marine sanctuary who brought a small touch tank with sea stars and hermit crabs. We sang happy birthday to Mia. She blew out 12 candles, making a wish she wouldn't tell anyone but that I suspected involved sea turtles and research vessels and a future dedicated to protecting the ocean. Then, without me asking, she turned to Dylan and said, "It's your birthday week too. Come blow out some candles." Dylan looked stunned, then grateful. They relit the candles together and everyone sang again, this time for both of them. Not in competition. Not comparing who had the better party or the more impressive achievements. Just two kids, turning 12, being celebrated for existing. My mother watched this interaction with tears in her eyes. Later, she pulled me aside. I see it now, she said. What I missed for so long. It was never about being better. It was just about being seen. Yeah, I said. That's all any of us want. I'm sorry I didn't understand that sooner. Sorry I made you feel invisible. Sorry I did the same thing to Mia. You're trying now. That matters. Does it? Can you really forgive someone after so much damage? I thought about it. About the long year of rebuilding, the careful steps forward, the genuine effort I'd seen from her. I don't know if I'll ever completely forget how it felt, I said honestly. But I think I'm learning to forgive. It's a process, not a moment. She nodded, accepting that. Fair enough. As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Rebecca pulled me into a hug. You know what's wild? She said. A year ago, you called me in desperation, needing to escape a nightmare. And now look at this, Mia's thriving, you've set boundaries that actually hold, your mom is genuinely trying to do better. You didn't just survive that day. You changed everything that came after. We survived it, I corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. That's what family is, she said. Not the people you're born to. The people who show up when it matters. She was right. I'd spent so much of my life trying to earn love from people who treated it as conditional, based on achievement and comparison, and who could shine brightest. I thought that was what family meant. But I'd learned better. Family was Marcus, holding my hand through the hardest decisions. Family was Rebecca, dropping everything to help create magic for my daughter. Family was my father, finally finding his voice to speak up. Family was my mother, doing the painful work of changing decades-old patterns. Family was Dylan, brave enough to push back against toxicity and create his own path. And family was Mia. Always Mia. The person who'd shown me that some things are worth fighting for, worth burning bridges for, worth completely restructuring your life for. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, Mia came into the living room where I was cleaning up wrapping paper. Mom? Yeah, sweetie? I'm glad we left that party last year. I stopped, looking at her. Yeah? Yeah. Because if we hadn't, I don't think things would have changed. Grandma would still be mean. Aunt Vanessa would still be saying terrible things. And I'd still feel like I had to compete with Dylan instead of just being friends with him. You're pretty wise for 12, I said. She grinned. I know. Must get it from my mom. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the chlorine smell from swimming earlier, the cake frosting probably still in her hair, the scent that was uniquely her. I love you, I said. Not because you're the best or the smartest or the most accomplished. Just because you're you. And you is more than enough. Love you too, Mom. Thanks for always protecting me. Always, I whispered. Every single time. Looking back now, almost a year and a half after that catastrophic 11th birthday party, I can see the whole picture. The way one moment of finally saying enough created ripples that changed everything. How walking away from toxicity, even family toxicity, gave my daughter permission to claim her own worth. How setting boundaries didn't destroy relationships but actually created space for healthier ones to grow. Vanessa and I still don't speak. Maybe someday we will, maybe we won't. I've made peace with not knowing. She's working through her own issues in her own time, and that's not my responsibility to manage. But I have my daughter, confident and passionate and unafraid to take up space. I have my husband, my chosen family, and the beginnings of reconciliation with the family members willing to do the work. And I have this, the knowledge that when it mattered most, when my child's sense of self was on the line, I chose her. Not peace, not politeness, not keeping the family together at any cost. Her. Every single time, I'd make the same choice. That's what makes me certain it was right.
Story 3.
At our Halloween party, my parents lifted their chocolate bars and said, "Some kids make you proud, and others are just brain rot." My brother started snickering and pointed at me. When my parents saw me getting angry, they started saying, "It's a joke, relax." So, I joked back, "I cancelled your 2-week luxury cruise," and laughed while they awkwardly laughed along. But 2 weeks later, they saw how funny my joke really was when they got to the port. I cancelled my parents' dream vacation, and I'd do it again. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I do. But before you decide I'm some kind of monster, let me tell you what happened at our Halloween party last year. Because what started as a stupid joke in a room full of fake cobwebs and candy corn turned into the most satisfying 2 weeks of my entire life. My name's Elena, I'm 26, and I've spent most of those years being the disappointing daughter. Not because I'm a failure. I have a degree in graphic design, a steady freelance career, and my own apartment in the city. But my brother Marcus? He's 28, works in finance, drives a BMW, and apparently walks on water according to our parents. The Halloween party was Mom's idea. She loves hosting, loves showing off their renovated suburban home with its vaulted ceilings and marble countertops. She'd gone all out this year, orange string lights everywhere, a fog machine in the corner, bowls of candy strategically placed on every surface. About 30 people showed up, relatives, neighbors, some of Dad's golf buddies. I came alone because I'd just gotten out of a relationship, which Mom had already mentioned to approximately everyone in the room before I even arrived. Elena's focusing on her career right now, she'd say with this tight smile, like career was code for can't keep a man. Marcus brought his fiancée, Simone. She's nice enough, I guess. Works in marketing, always dressed like she's about to close a deal. They'd announced their engagement 2 months earlier, and it was all anyone could talk about. The wedding was set for next June. Destination wedding, naturally. Tuscany. I was standing by the snack table, working on my second mini Snickers, when it happened. Dad clinked a fork against his beer bottle. The room quieted. He had this broad smile on his face, the kind he gets after a few drinks when he's feeling philosophical. "Quick toast," he announced, lifting his chocolate bar in the air. Mom grabbed one too, holding it up like champagne. "Some kids make you proud, and others are just brain rot." The room laughed. That awkward, uncertain laughter you hear when people aren't sure if a joke landed but feel obligated to react. Marcus snorted, actually snorted, and pointed directly at me across the room. His finger stabbed the air between us like an accusation. More laughter. Louder this time. Someone near me whispered something I couldn't quite catch, but I heard freelance and still single. My face burned. I could feel every eye in that room sliding toward me, then away, then back again. The fog machine chose that moment to belch out another cloud of artificial mist, and I felt like I was drowning in it. I forced a laugh. What else could I do? Storm out and confirm everything they were thinking? Make a scene at Mom's precious party? But Dad saw my face. So did Mom. And instead of apologizing, instead of realizing they just humiliated me in front of everyone we knew, Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, honey, it's a joke. Relax." Dad nodded, already turning away to refill his beer. "Yeah, sweetheart. Lighten up. Marcus was still grinning. Simone had the decency to look uncomfortable, but she didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. Something cold settled in my chest right then. Not anger, not yet. Something harder. More calculated. I smiled. A real smile this time. That's funny, I said, loud enough that the conversations around me stuttered to a halt. I've got a joke too. Dad turned back, eyebrows raised. Mom's smile had gone brittle at the edges. I canceled your 2-week luxury cruise. I said it like I was commenting on the weather. Casual. Light. The room went silent. Then someone laughed nervously. Then a few more people joined in, because it had to be a joke, right? I was just playing along with their little roast session. Mom and Dad laughed too, but I saw confusion flicker across their faces. Uncertainty. Good one, Dad said, but his voice had an edge to it. A question hiding inside the statement. I just kept smiling and took another bite of chocolate. Let them wonder. The party continued. The fog machine kept coughing out mist. Someone started a game of beer pong in the basement. I stayed for another hour, made small talk, pretended everything was fine. Marcus avoided me, which was typical. Mom kept glancing at me from across the room like she was trying to solve an equation. When I left, I hugged them both at the door. Thanks for a great party, I said sweetly. Enjoy your trip. Here's the thing, 3 months earlier, my parents had booked this incredible Mediterranean cruise. 2 weeks, 6 countries, a suite with a balcony. They'd been planning it for over a year, ever since Dad's retirement. It was leaving the week after Thanksgiving, and they wouldn't shut up about it. Every family dinner, every phone call, they'd bring up the cruise. The excursions they'd booked, the formal dinners, the ports they'd visit. They'd shown me the confirmation email once, back in August, pulled it up on Dad's phone over lunch. I have a good memory for details. Numbers, confirmation codes, email addresses. Comes with the territory when you're a designer, you have to keep track of client specifications, file names, invoice numbers. I hadn't planned anything that day in August. But I'd noticed. And I'd remembered. The morning after the Halloween party, I woke up with my jaw aching from grinding my teeth in my sleep. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and stared at the screen for a long time. Brain rot. Like I was some kind of disappointment because I chose a creative career over finance. Because I wasn't engaged yet. Because I didn't fit their narrow definition of success. My fingers moved before I'd fully decided. I pulled up the cruise line's website and clicked on Manage Booking. It was almost too easy. I had their confirmation number saved in a photo on my phone. I'd snapped it that day in August without really thinking about why. The system asked for the last name and email address associated with the booking. I typed them in. Access granted. The screen loaded their entire itinerary. Boarding passes, excursion reservations, dining preferences, everything. There was a little button that said cancel reservation in red letters at the bottom. I hovered over it for what felt like an hour but was probably 30 seconds. Then I clicked it. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this reservation? Cancellation fees may apply depending on your policy. They'd bought travel insurance, I knew that. But the cancellation window for a full refund had closed 2 months ago. They'd lose at least 40% of what they paid. Maybe more. I clicked confirm. The screen processed for a moment. Then, your reservation has been cancelled. A confirmation email has been sent. I sat back in my chair, heart hammering. What had I just done? My phone buzzed. A text from Mom, thanks for coming last night, sweetie. Sorry if the joke went too far, you know how your father gets after a few beers, lol. I stared at that message. Sorry if the joke went too far. Not I'm sorry we embarrassed you. Not we shouldn't have said that. Just. If. Like my hurt feelings were hypothetical. I texted back, no worries. Have fun on your trip. Then I closed my laptop and went about my day. The confirmation email would have gone to Dad's inbox. They probably wouldn't check it for weeks. They had no reason to verify the reservation, it was all set, all paid for, all planned. They'd just show up at the port with their luggage and their excitement and their stupid matching cruise t-shirts they'd bought. I felt sick. Then I felt satisfied. Then sick again. The weeks crawled by. Thanksgiving came and went. We had dinner at their house, like always. Turkey and stuffing and Mom's famous pumpkin pie. Marcus and Simone were there, showing off Simone's ring for the 1000th time. Nobody mentioned Halloween. Nobody apologized. Dad talked about the cruise incessantly. The weather forecast for the Mediterranean was perfect. He'd bought a new camera. Mom had bought 4 new outfits specifically for the formal dinners. They'd upgraded to a larger suite at the last minute, cost them an extra $800, but it had a better view. Except it didn't. Because they didn't have a suite anymore. They didn't have anything. I smiled and nodded through the whole dinner. That sounds amazing, I said. You two deserve it. Marcus clinked his wine glass against mine at one point. Maybe you can take a cruise someday too, he said with his condescending smirk. When you're more established. I wanted to throw my wine in his face. Instead, I said, maybe I will. The day before they were supposed to leave, Mom called me. I was in the middle of a client project, designing a logo for a startup, and almost didn't answer. Elena. We're packing. I'm so nervous I'm going to forget something. You'll be fine, Mom. You have a whole list. I know. I just called to say we'll be out of contact for most of the trip. The ship has Wi-Fi, but it's expensive and spotty. So if you need anything, call Marcus, okay? Sure thing. And honey? Her voice softened. I really am sorry about the Halloween thing. We didn't mean anything by it. Too little, too late. Way too late. I know, Mom. Don't worry about it. Have an amazing time. After I hung up, I sat very still. Doubt crept in like cold water. Was I really going to let them get all the way to the port? Was I that vindictive? Yes. Yes, I was. They left early the next morning, I heard through the family group chat. Marcus posted a photo of them loading suitcases into Dad's SUV, both of them grinning like kids on Christmas morning. The port was 3 hours away. They were planning to get there mid-morning, check in early, maybe have lunch on the ship before it departed at 4. I went to the gym. Ran 5 miles on the treadmill, pushed myself until my legs shook. Came home, showered, made lunch. Tried to work but couldn't focus. My phone rang at 1:47 p.m. Dad's name on the screen. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Voicemail. 10 seconds later, Mom called. I didn't answer. Then Marcus. I declined that one immediately. A text from Dad, Elena, call me now. Another from Mom, there's been some kind of mistake with the cruise, we need your help. Marcus, pick up your phone, what the heck? I turned my phone face down and went back to my laptop. Opened the design file for my client. Adjusted some kerning on the font. Added a gradient. Changed the gradient. Changed it back. My phone buzzed continuously for the next hour. Calls, texts, more calls. I could picture them at the port, at the check-in desk, arguing with some customer service representative who was very sorry but had no record of their reservation. At 3:15, I finally answered. Dad. Elena. Oh, thank God. Listen, something insane happened. Someone canceled our cruise reservation. The whole thing just, gone. They're saying we canceled it months ago but we never. That's terrible, Dad. We're at the port right now and they're saying there's nothing they can do. We've lost thousands of dollars, Elena. Thousands. And the ship leaves in 45 minutes. Wow. That's really awful. A pause. I could hear Mom crying in the background. Actual sobs. You don't sound very surprised. His voice had gone cold. Why would I be surprised? Another pause. Longer this time. I heard him say something to Mom, muffled, his hand over the phone. When he came back, his voice was shaking. What did you do? I canceled your cruise, Dad. I told you I did. At the party. Remember? It was a joke. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the background noise of the port, announcements over loudspeakers, the distant rumble of the ship's horn. You. He couldn't finish the sentence. I hope you two learned something today, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. Some parents make you proud. Others are just brain rot. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I felt like I might throw up or cry or laugh or all three at once. Then my phone started ringing again. And again. And again. I turned it off. For 3 days, I left my phone off. I worked on client projects, binge-watched an entire series on streaming, deep-cleaned my apartment. I didn't check email. Didn't check social media. Just existed in this weird bubble of silence. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 63 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from family members. Aunt Karen wanted to know what happened. Uncle Steve said I needed to apologize immediately. Distant cousins I barely knew had opinions about my maturity level. Marcus had sent a long, rambling text about how I'd always been jealous of him, how this proved I was unstable, how I needed professional help. Simone had sent one message: "That was really messed up, Elena." Mom's messages started angry, then turned pleading, then angry again. "How could you do this to us? We gave you everything. Your father is devastated. We need to talk about your behavior." Dad didn't text at all. He called once more, 2 days after the crew's departure. I didn't answer. He didn't leave a voicemail. The family group chat, which was usually full of memes and random updates, had gone completely silent. I made coffee and sat on my couch and tried to figure out how I felt. Guilty? A little. Satisfied? Absolutely. Regretful? I kept waiting for regret to show up, but it didn't. A week after the incident, Mom finally reached me. I'd started answering unknown numbers for work, and she must have called from a different phone. Elena. Just my name. Flat. Exhausted. "Hi, Mom. We need to talk." "Okay. In person. Can you come to the house this weekend?" I almost said no. Almost told her I was busy, had client work, couldn't make it. But something in her voice stopped me. She didn't sound angry anymore. She sounded defeated. "I'll be there Saturday. Noon." She hung up without saying goodbye. That Saturday morning, I changed my outfit 3 times. Tried to eat breakfast but couldn't. Drove to their house with my stomach in knots, half expecting to find the locks changed or a lawyer waiting for me. The house looked the same as always. Neat lawn, seasonal wreath on the door. But when Mom answered, she looked like she'd aged 5 years. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual perfect styling. "Come in." Dad was sitting at the kitchen table. He didn't stand up when I walked in. Didn't look at me, actually. Just stared at his coffee mug like it held the secrets of the universe. I sat down across from them. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Mom finally broke the silence. "You canceled our cruise." "I did. On purpose. It wasn't some computer error or mistake." "It wasn't." Dad's jaw clenched, but he still didn't look up. "We lost almost $9,000, Elena." $9,000? The cruise line wouldn't refund us because we were past the cancellation window. The travel insurance won't cover it because it was a voluntary cancellation, not an emergency. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? "Why?" Mom's voice cracked. "Why would you do this to us?" "Brain rot," I said quietly. "Remember? Some kids make you proud, and others are just brain rot." Dad flinched like I'd slapped him. "That was a joke," Mom said, but the words came out weak. Uncertain. It didn't feel like a joke when 30 people laughed at me. When Marcus pointed at me like I was the punchline. When you dismissed me for being upset instead of apologizing. "We did apologize," Mom protested. "You said sorry if I was offended. That's not the same as being sorry for what you did." Silence again. Dad finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. "You humiliated us," he said. His voice was rough, barely above a whisper. "We stood at that port with our luggage, excited for this trip we'd been planning for a year. And they told us our reservation didn't exist. Do you know how that felt? Do you have any idea?" "Yeah," I said. "I do, actually. It felt exactly like standing in a room full of people while my parents called me brain rot and everyone laughed." "That's not, we didn't," Mom stumbled over her words. "It's not the same thing at all." "Isn't it? You hurt me publicly, so I hurt you publicly. You cost me my dignity, I cost you your vacation. Seems fair to me." "Fair?" Dad's voice rose. $9,000 is fair? How much is my self-respect worth, Dad? Can you put a price on that? He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked away. Mom was crying now, quietly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "We love you, Elena. We've always loved you. We gave you everything growing up. Paid for your college, supported you when you wanted to do freelance instead of getting a real job." "A real job? You mean like Marcus's real job? Is that what this is about? That I didn't become some corporate clone who measures success in car payments and square footage? That's not fair." Mom's voice sharpened. "Your brother works hard. So do I. We know that, honey, But what? But it's not impressive enough? Not lucrative enough? Not worthy of respect? Mom looked helpless. Dad still wasn't meeting my eyes. I took a breath, tried to steady my voice. You've been comparing me to Marcus my entire life. When he made the honor roll, you asked why I only made regular. When he got into his first choice college, you reminded me I had to settle for my second. When he got his job, you asked when I was going to get serious about my career. Every single achievement I've ever had has been measured against him and found wanting. That's not true, Mom said, but the protest was automatic. Rehearsed. The Halloween party was just the final straw. You didn't even think twice about humiliating me because you don't take me seriously. You never have. The kitchen was too quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. We didn't mean to make you feel that way, Mom said finally. We really didn't. But you did. For years. And you never noticed. Never cared enough to notice. Dad cleared his throat. When he spoke, he sounded old. Tired. What you did was still wrong, Elena. Even if you were hurt. Even if we weren't as sensitive as we should have been. I know. And I did know. I'd known from the moment I clicked that confirmation button. But I'm not sorry I did it. That shocked them both. Mom's mouth dropped open. I'm not sorry, I repeated. Because maybe now you'll think twice before treating me like a disappointment. Maybe now you'll understand that actions have consequences. So this was. What? Teaching us a lesson? Dad's face had gone red. Who do you think you are? Your daughter. The one you raised. The one who apparently learned that love in this family is conditional on achievement. That's not true. Mom reached across the table like she wanted to grab my hand, but I pulled back. Elena, please. We love you. We've always loved you. You love the idea of me fitting into your expectations. That's not the same thing. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor, too loud in the quiet room. I should go. Wait. Mom stood too. We need to fix this. As a family. You need to fix how you treat me. That's the only thing that needs fixing. So what, you're just going to leave? Not talk to us anymore? Dad's voice had an edge of panic now. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. That was honest. I really hadn't. Part of me wanted to cut them off completely, start fresh without their constant judgment. But another part, the part that still remembered family dinners and childhood vacations and Mom teaching me to bake, wanted to find a way forward. Please don't go, Mom whispered. Stay. We'll talk more. We'll figure this out. But I was already walking toward the door. I could hear her following me, Dad's chair scraping back as he stood up. Elena. I turned at the door. They were both standing in the hallway now, looking smaller somehow. Older. I love you both, I said. But I need you to understand something. I'm not Marcus. I'm never going to be Marcus. And if you can't accept that, if you can't be proud of me for who I actually am, then we don't have much to talk about. Mom started crying again. Dad just stood there, hands hanging at his sides. I left. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into work. Took on extra projects, redesigned my portfolio website, reached out to new clients. My business grew. I landed a contract with a mid-sized tech company that wanted a complete brand overhaul. The biggest project I'd ever done, worth more than I usually made in 3 months. I sent Mom and Dad an email with the news. A brief, professional update. Thought you'd like to know. Mom responded immediately. That's wonderful, sweetheart. We're so proud of you. Can we take you to dinner to celebrate? I stared at that email for a long time. So proud of you. The words I'd been waiting to hear my whole life, and now they felt hollow. Performative. But maybe that was the point. Maybe we had to start somewhere. I agreed to dinner. Neutral territory, a restaurant downtown. They showed up 10 minutes early, both dressed nicely. Dad in a button-down, Mom in her favorite blue dress. We made small talk at first. Weather, traffic, the menu. Then, after the waiter took our orders, Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been talking. A lot. About everything. I waited. We've been going to a therapist, Mom said. Family counseling, they call it, even though you're not there. But it's helping us understand some things. Like what? Dad shifted in his seat. Like how we've been treating you. How we've made you feel. The therapist says we've been. What was the term? Emotionally invalidating, Mom supplied. We've been emotionally invalidating your choices and accomplishments because they don't match our expectations. It sounded rehearsed. Probably was. But at least they were trying. And we're sorry, Dad continued. Really sorry. Not sorry if you felt hurt, but sorry that we hurt you. There's a difference, apparently. There is. We can't undo what we said at the party. Or the years of comparisons. But we want to do better. If you'll let us. I looked at both of them. Mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. Dad's hands were clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. I need you to know something, I said carefully. What I did was wrong. Canceling your cruise was petty and vindictive, and I hurt you on purpose. I'm not proud of that. They both started to speak, but I held up my hand. But I'm also not going to be your punching bag anymore. I'm not going to smile and take it when you make jokes at my expense. And I'm not going to keep trying to earn your approval by becoming someone I'm not. We understand, Mom said quickly. We do. Do you? Because I need to hear you say it. I need to hear that you're proud of me. The actual me. Not some version of me that lives up to your standards. Dad met my eyes. We are proud of you, Elena. Your work is incredible. You've built a business from nothing. That takes guts. Takes talent. He paused. I think we were jealous, honestly. Jealous? Mom nodded. You took a risk. Followed your passion. We both played it safe our whole lives, stable jobs, predictable path. Maybe we resented that you had the courage to do something different. That hadn't occurred to me. I'd always assumed they just thought I was foolish. It doesn't excuse how we treated you, Dad continued. But maybe it explains it. We were projecting our own regrets onto you. The food arrived. We ate in silence for a while, but it wasn't the awful, tense silence from before. It was thoughtful. Processing. The cruise company offered us a makeup trip, Mom said eventually. 50% off a future booking. Not the same, but something. That's good. We're thinking maybe next year. After things have settled. I nodded. Maybe you could come with us, Dad said suddenly. If you wanted. We could make it a family trip. Do it right this time. The offer surprised me. Maybe, I said. Let's see how the next few months go. That seemed to satisfy them. We finished dinner. Hugged in the parking lot, awkward but genuine. Made plans to try this again in a couple of weeks. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. Not fixed, nothing was fixed yet. But moving in the right direction. Marcus called me 3 days later. I almost didn't answer. Hey. Hey. His voice was stiff. Formal. So. I heard you had dinner with Mom and Dad. Yeah. How'd that go? Better than expected, actually. A pause. Look, I'm not calling to lecture you. Even though what you did was really messed up. I know. But I think I owe you an apology too. That shocked me into silence. I've been a jerk to you, Marcus continued. For years. I've treated you like competition instead of family. And at that party, I laughed at you because everyone else was laughing and it felt good to be on the winning side for once. For once? Marcus, you're always on the winning side. You're the golden child. No, I'm the one who's terrified of disappointing them. There's a difference, he sighed. You got to be yourself. Make your own choices. I've been following a script my entire life because I was too scared to deviate. Finance job? Hated it at first. The BMW? Can barely afford the payments. Even the engagement. He stopped abruptly. What about the engagement? Nothing. Forget it. Point is, I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you at the party. Should have said something. I didn't, and I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say. This was the most honest conversation Marcus and I had ever had. Thanks, I managed finally. That means a lot. Simone wants me to invite you to dinner sometime. Double date or something. You can bring someone or just come solo, whatever. I'd like that. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at nothing for a while. My family was broken. Probably had been for a long time. But maybe, just maybe, we could piece it back together. It's been 8 months since Halloween. 8 months since I canceled that cruise and watched my family implode. We're not fixed. I don't know if we'll ever be completely fixed. But we're trying. Mom calls once a week now. Not to critique or compare, just to talk. She asks about my projects, actually listens when I explain them. Dad sent me an article last month about successful graphic designers and wrote in the email, "Made me think of you. Reminded me how talented you are. Marcus and I got dinner last week. Just the two of us, no Simone. He told me he's thinking about leaving finance, maybe going back to school for something he actually cares about. Teaching, maybe. Or environmental science. He asked for my advice on taking risks. I told him the truth, it's terrifying. But it's also the only way to really live. We're going on that makeup cruise next month. All of us, Mom, Dad, Marcus, Simone, and me. I almost said no when they first invited me. The idea of being trapped on a ship with my family for 2 weeks sounded like a nightmare. But then I thought about it. About how far we'd come. About how, sometimes, you have to do the uncomfortable thing to get to the other side of the pain. I'm still not sorry I canceled their original cruise. Not really. Because that act of petty vengeance, as awful as it was, forced us all to confront truths we'd been avoiding for decades. It broke us open. And maybe we needed to break before we could start to heal. My therapist, yes, I got a therapist too, says I have boundary issues. Says I've spent my whole life letting my family walk all over me and then exploded in one dramatic gesture instead of addressing things progressively. She's probably right. But I'm working on it. On communicating. On standing up for myself in real time instead of swallowing hurt until it poisons me. On forgiving them without forgetting what happened. The other day, Mom sent me a photo. It was from the Halloween party, taken right before the toast. I'm standing by the snack table, mid-laugh at something someone said. I look happy. Unaware of what's coming. Her text said, "Found this and realized how much I miss your laugh. Sorry we gave you reasons to stop. Love you." I cried when I read that. The good kind of crying. I wrote back, "Love you too. See you on the cruise." Because here's the thing I've learned, family is complicated. Love is complicated. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve, even if it means burning everything down first. I canceled my parents' cruise, and it was petty and cruel and disproportionate. But it was also the wake-up call we all needed. Would I recommend my method to others? Absolutely not. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat? Well, maybe not. Because now when my dad makes a joke at my expense, I tell him it bothers me. When my mom compares me to Marcus, I remind her we're different people with different paths. And when Marcus tries to one-up me, I call him on it instead of smiling and swallowing my frustration. We're learning. All of us. Learning to be a family that actually respects each other instead of just claiming to. The cruise ship leaves in 3 weeks. I've already started packing. Bought a new swimsuit, some sundresses, a fancy outfit for the formal dinners. Mom wants to do a spa day on board. Dad wants to take a cooking class together. Marcus wants to try parasailing and insists I come with him. I'm nervous. Of course I'm nervous. 2 weeks is a long time to be in close quarters with people you've just started rebuilding relationships with. But I'm also excited. Because this time, we're not pretending. We're not performing the perfect family. We're just us. Messy and flawed and trying our best. The day before we're supposed to leave, I get a call from an unknown number. I almost ignore it, too much work to wrap up before vacation, but something makes me answer. Elena Rodriguez? Speaking. This is Jennifer Chen from Catalyst Creative Agency. We received your portfolio submission last month, and we'd love to schedule an interview. We're looking for a lead designer to head our rebranding division. I nearly dropped my phone. Catalyst is one of the biggest creative agencies in the city. I'd sent them my portfolio on a whim 3 months ago, never expecting to hear back. That's wow. Yes. Absolutely. Wonderful. I know the timing's tight, but would you be available next Wednesday? I see from your initial application that you're currently freelancing, so I wasn't sure about your schedule. Wednesday. The day we're supposed to be at sea, somewhere between Barcelona and Marseille. My mouth goes dry. This is the kind of opportunity that could change everything. A steady salary. Benefits? Recognition from a major player in the industry. The exact kind of success my parents always wanted for me, just in my own field. And I'd have to miss the family cruise to take it. Actually, I'm going to be out of the country for 2 weeks starting tomorrow. Family trip. Is there any chance we could schedule for when I get back? Silence on the other end. Not a good sign. Let me check with the hiring team, Jennifer says finally. We were hoping to fill this position quickly, but I'll see what I can do. Can I call you back within the hour? Of course. Thank you so much. After we hang up, I sit on my couch staring at my half-packed suitcase. The fancy dress I bought for formal dinners is draped over the arm, tags still attached. My phone buzzes. Mom, can't wait for tomorrow. Dad's already packed even though I told him not to overdo it with the Hawaiian shirts. I type out a response, delete it, type again. Me too. See you at the airport. But my stomach is churning. The call comes back 45 minutes later. Jennifer's voice is apologetic but firm. I spoke with the team, and unfortunately we really need to fill this position within the next 2 weeks. We have a major client project starting in 3 weeks, and we need someone in place before then. I'm so sorry, if your timing were different, I think you'd be a perfect fit. I understand. Thank you for considering me. If anything changes on your end, please don't hesitate to reach out. And best of luck with everything. I set my phone down very carefully. Then I pick it up again and open my family group chat. Start typing, something came up with work. Might need to postpone, delete it. Type, just got offered an interview that could change my career. Delete that too. Here's the thing, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have hesitated. I would have canceled on my family in a heartbeat for an opportunity like this. Would have told myself that work comes first, that they'd understand, that there would always be other cruises. But 6 months ago, I also canceled their dream vacation out of spite. And I'm trying to be different now. Trying to be better. I call Mom instead of texting. Elena. Everything okay? You sound stressed. Yeah, I wanted to hear your voice. Oh, honey. Getting nervous about tomorrow? A little. But in a good way, I think. It's going to be wonderful. A fresh start for all of us. After we hang up, I finish packing. Put the fancy dress in my suitcase. Add an extra swimsuit. A book I've been meaning to read. Then I email Jennifer back, thank you so much for the opportunity. I truly appreciate you checking on the timeline. I won't be able to make the interview work, but if any future positions open up, I'd love to be considered. Wishing you all the best with the search. My finger hovers over the send button for a long moment. Then I click it. The relief that washes over me is unexpected. And tells me I made the right choice. That night, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about that interview. About what I'm giving up. At 2 a.m., I almost emailed Jennifer back to say I've changed my mind, that I can make Wednesday work somehow. But then I think about Mom's voice on the phone. About Dad's email with the article about designers. About Marcus asking me for advice on taking risks. About how hard we've all been working to fix what was broken. Some opportunities are once in a lifetime. But so are second chances with family. The airport the next morning is chaos. Dad has brought 3 Hawaiian shirts despite Mom's protests. Marcus is stressed because Simone got stuck in traffic and they're running late. Mom keeps checking her phone to make sure she has the boarding passes. I show up with my suitcase and a grande latte and try to look more awake than I feel. There she is. Dad grins when he sees me. Thought you might bail on us. He's joking. Probably. But there's an edge of real anxiety under the humor. Wouldn't miss it, I say, and I mean it. Simone arrives 10 minutes before we need to go through security, flustered and apologizing. We make it to our gate with 20 minutes to spare. On the plane, I end up sitting next to Marcus. Simone's across the aisle, already asleep with a neck pillow and eye mask. Mom and Dad are a few rows behind us. You okay? Marcus asks as we taxi to the runway. You seem distracted. I consider lying. Old habits. But we're trying to be honest now. I got offered an interview yesterday. Big agency. Dream position, basically. But it was scheduled for when we'd be at sea, so I turned it down. Marcus's eyes widen. Seriously? Elena, that's huge. Why didn't you say something? Because this is more important. Is it though? He's not being cruel, genuinely asking. I mean, we could have rescheduled the cruise. No. We couldn't have. We need this. All of us. And there will be other jobs. Will there? It's a fair question. One I've been asking myself since 2 a.m. I don't know. But I know that 6 months ago, I was so angry at this family that I cost Mom and Dad $9,000 just to make a point. And now we're actually talking. Actually trying. I'm not going to mess that up for a job interview. Marcus is quiet for a moment. The plane lifts off, and we both watch the ground fall away beneath us. You've changed, he says finally. Since Halloween. Since everything. So have you? Yeah. I quit my job, by the way. 2 weeks ago. Didn't tell anyone yet except Simone. I turned to stare at him. What? Gave my notice. I'm going back to school. Environmental science, like I mentioned. Start in January. Marcus, that's incredible. He laughs, but it sounds shaky. Tell me that in a year when I'm 30 and taking undergrad classes with 19-year-olds. You're doing something that matters to you. That's what counts. That's what you said at dinner. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. About how you built a whole career doing exactly what you wanted, even when everyone told you it was risky. Even when mom and dad made you feel like it wasn't good enough. It was really hard sometimes. I bet. But you did it anyway. The flight attendant comes by with drinks. We both order ginger ale like we're kids again, and Marcus laughs when we realize it. Remember when we were little and you made me play your design assistant? He says. You draw these elaborate logos for fake companies and make me rate them. You always gave me 5s out of 10. Because I was a jerk. They were actually good. I just didn't want to admit my little sister was better at something than me. Your older sister. Yeah. Point is, I'm sorry. For a lot of years of being competitive when I should have been supportive. I'm sorry too. For the cruise thing. I know I said I wasn't, but I am. It was cruel. It was. But it also woke everyone up. Sometimes you need the nuclear option. He pauses. Just don't make it a habit, okay? We both laugh, and it feels good. Easy. Like we might actually be able to be friends instead of just siblings forced together by circumstance. The cruise itself is not perfect, but better than I expected. The first night, we have dinner together in the main dining room. The table is set with white linens and fancy silverware. Dad orders wine for everyone and makes a toast. To family, he says, lifting his glass. To second chances. To doing better. We all clink glasses, and I catch Mom wiping her eyes with her napkin. Day 2, we're docked in Barcelona. We split up for the morning. Mom and Dad want to see the Sagrada Familia, Marcus and Simone want to explore the Gothic Quarter, and I just want to wander and take photos for potential design inspiration. I end up in a small cafe, drinking the best coffee I've ever tasted and sketching in my notebook. I haven't done this in months, just drawn for fun, no client, no deadline, no purpose except the joy of creating. When I check my phone, I have an email. From Jennifer at Catalyst. My heart jumps. I click it open. Elena, I wanted to reach out one more time. After our call, I realized I hadn't fully explained the position or the flexibility we could offer. Would you be open to a video interview during your trip? I understand you're traveling, but even a 30-minute call could work. The team was really impressed with your portfolio, and I'd hate for us to miss out on a great candidate due to scheduling. Let me know. Jennifer, I stare at the email. Read it 3 times. This is it. The compromise. I could take the call, do the interview, maybe get the job without sacrificing family time. But I think about yesterday. About sitting next to Marcus on the plane, actually connecting with him. About Mom's tears at Dad's toast. About how fragile this whole thing still is. A video interview isn't just 30 minutes. It's the anxiety beforehand, the mental preparation, the distraction of worrying about it while I'm supposed to be present with my family. It's choosing work over them again, even if in a smaller way. I close the email without responding. Not yet. I need to think. That evening, we're all on the deck watching the sunset. The Mediterranean stretches out in every direction, deep blue fading to gold at the horizon. Mom's leaning against Dad, his arm around her shoulders. Marcus and Simone are taking selfies. I'm just standing there, watching. Beautiful, isn't it? Dad appears next to me, hands on the railing. Yeah. Your mother told me you seemed worried about something. Said you were quiet today. I consider brushing it off. But we're trying honesty now. That interview I mentioned to Marcus? They reached out again. Offered to do a video call while we're on the trip. Dad is quiet for a moment, watching the sun sink lower. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Do you want to? Part of me does. It's a really good opportunity. And the other part? I turn to look at him. Really look at him. He's got more gray in his hair than I remembered. Lines around his eyes that weren't there a year ago. The other part thinks I should be here. Fully here. Not halfway present while worrying about a job interview. Dad nods slowly. Can I tell you something? About regrets? Okay. When Marcus was 8 and you were 6, I got offered a promotion. Big one. Would have meant more money, better title, all of that. But it also meant traveling 3 weeks out of every month. Your mother and I talked about it, and I almost took it. Came very close. Why didn't you? Because I did the math. 3 weeks a month for 10 years. That's almost 8 full years I would have missed of watching you two grow up. And for what? A fancier job title and money we didn't desperately need? He shakes his head. I've never regretted turning it down. Not once. But this is different. This is your dream job. I know. And maybe you should take the interview. Maybe it's the right move for your career. He pauses. But here's what I've learned. There will always be another opportunity. Another job, another promotion, another chance to prove yourself professionally. But this? He gestures to our family on the deck. This moment? These 2 weeks? We can't get them back. My throat is tight. When did you get so wise? Therapy, mostly. He laughs. Your mother and I are learning all sorts of things about ourselves. None of it pleasant, but all of it necessary. I'm glad you're going. I'm glad you forced us to wake up. Even if your method was dramatic. We stand in comfortable silence as the sun finally disappears below the horizon. The sky is painted in purples and pinks, and someone on the deck starts playing a guitar. That night, I write back to Jennifer. Thank you so much for your flexibility and continued interest. After giving it serious thought, I've decided to fully unplug during this family trip. It's been a long time coming, and I need to be completely present. I understand this means I won't be considered for the current position, but I'm grateful for the opportunity. If Catalyst has openings in the future, I'd love to reconnect. Thank you for understanding. I hit send before I can second guess myself. The next morning, I wake up feeling lighter than I have in days. We spend the rest of the cruise actually connecting. Mom and I do get that spa day, and while we're sitting in fluffy robes waiting for our massages, she tells me about her own dreams when she was my age. I wanted to be a journalist, she says. Investigative reporting. The whole thing. But my parents thought it was too risky, too unstable. They pushed me toward teaching instead. I didn't know that. I never told you. Never really told anyone except your father. She adjusts her robe. I think that's part of why I was so hard on you about freelancing. It scared me. Reminded me of the risk I never took. You could still write, you know. It's not too late. Maybe. She smiles. I've been thinking about it, actually. Taking a class or something. Your dad's retired now, so I have time. You should do it. We'll see. Point is, I'm sorry I projected my fears onto you. You were braver than I was, and instead of celebrating that, I made you feel bad about it. We hug, which is awkward in the robes but genuine. The cooking class with Dad is hilarious. We're making paella, and he's terrible at it. Keeps adding too much saffron, burns the rice, accidentally uses salt instead of sugar in the dessert component. I'm a disaster, he laughs, surveying his ruined pan. You really are, I agree. But we're laughing together, and that's what matters. Marcus and I do try parasailing. I'm terrified the entire time, screaming as they lift us up over the water. Marcus is whooping with joy, and by the end, I'm laughing so hard I can barely breathe. This is insane. I yell over the wind. Isn't it great? And it is. It really is. On the last night of the cruise, we have dinner at the captain's table. All 5 of us dressed up, Dad actually wearing a regular button-down instead of a Hawaiian shirt, Mom in the blue dress she loves, Marcus in a suit, Simone in something elegant and cream-colored, and me in the fancy dress I almost didn't pack. Over dessert, Dad stands up with his wine glass. I want to say something. To all of you, but especially to Elena. Oh no. Please don't make this weird. 8 months ago, I made a stupid joke at a party. Thought I was being funny. Thought everyone would laugh and we'd move on. He clears his throat. Instead, I hurt my daughter. Hurt her so badly that she felt she needed to hurt us back just to be heard. Mom is already crying. Simone looks uncomfortable. Marcus is watching Dad intently. And here's the thing, she was right to be angry. Not right in what she did, maybe, but right to be furious with us. Because we failed her. For years, we measured her against her brother instead of celebrating her for who she is. We made her feel like she had to earn our love by becoming someone she's not. I'm crying now too. Can't help it. Elena, you're an incredible designer. You built a business from nothing. You took risks that terrify me and turned them into success. And more than that, you're kind. You're creative. You're brave. His voice breaks. And I'm so proud of you. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of who you are. He raises his glass. To Elena. The daughter who loved us enough to break us apart so we could put ourselves back together the right way. Everyone drinks. I'm ugly crying at this point, not even trying to hide it. After dinner, I find a quiet spot on the deck. Just need a moment to process everything. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Hi Elena, this is Jennifer from Catalyst. I just wanted to say thank you for your honest response. It takes integrity to prioritize what really matters. We don't have anything available right now, but I'll keep your portfolio on file. Enjoy your family time, sounds like you've earned it. I smile and put my phone away. Yeah. I think I have. So yeah, I canceled my parents' dream vacation out of spite and revenge. I cost them thousands of dollars and caused months of family drama. I'm not proud of how I handled things. But I'm proud of where we ended up. And if that makes me a bad person, well, at least I'm not brain rot. At least I'm finally, fully, completely myself. And that's enough.
Story 4.
On my 15th birthday, everyone in class sang happy birthday as I stood before them, but I noticed my bully watching with a hateful stare. During lunch, she dumped rotten milk over me, threw eggs, and sneered, "Surprise, birthday girl." I didn't cry. I didn't say a word. I just left. But what my dad did that night left her entire family begging me for forgiveness. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone outside my immediate family, and honestly, I'm still not sure if what happened was justice or if we crossed a line we can never uncross. It started like most birthday mornings do, awkward and loud and overwhelming in that specific way high school makes everything. My homeroom teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had written my name on the board with a little balloon drawing next to it, and when I walked in, 23 voices crashed into happy birthday without warning or rhythm. Some kids were genuinely smiling. Others were just going through the motions, mouths moving on autopilot while they scrolled through their phones. But Maya wasn't singing. She sat in the back corner, third row from the window, and her eyes were locked on me with this look I'd come to know too well over the past 2 years. Pure, concentrated hatred. The kind that makes your skin prickle even when you're trying to ignore it. Her jaw was tight, her arms crossed, and while everyone else clapped when the song ended, she just stared. I should probably explain Maya before we go any further. Maya Thornton had decided, sometime during 8th grade, that I was her personal project. I never figured out why. We'd been friendly enough in middle school, not close, but we'd worked on group projects together, shared notes once or twice. Then something shifted. Maybe I said something that offended her. Maybe she just needed a target. Whatever the reason, she made my freshman year miserable, and sophomore year was shaping up to be worse. It wasn't the physical stuff, mostly. Maya was too smart for that. She knew how to work in the gray areas, the places teachers couldn't quite see or prove. She'd accidentally knock my lunch tray. She'd start rumors that were just plausible enough to spread. She'd exclude me from group chats and then act confused when I didn't know about assignment changes. She was surgical about it. But on my 15th birthday, something in her snapped. I made it through morning classes without incident. English, history, pre-calculus, all fine. I was actually starting to think maybe she'd leave me alone for one day. Maybe even Maya Thornton had some sense of occasion. I was so wrong. Lunch period. The cafeteria smelled like disinfectant and overcooked pasta, and the fluorescent lights made everyone look slightly sick. I bought my usual, a sandwich, an apple, a bottle of water, and was heading toward the table where my friend Sophie sat when I felt it. Cold. Wet. Rancid. The smell hit me before I fully processed what had happened. Spoiled milk, the kind that's been sitting in a hot locker for days, poured down my head, soaking through my hair, my birthday sweater, everything. The texture was chunky. I could feel clumps sliding down the back of my neck. Then the eggs came. 3 of them, thrown hard enough to break on impact. Yolk and white mixed with the milk, and the cafeteria went silent in that horrible way that means everyone is watching and no one is helping. Surprise, birthday girl. Maya's voice was bright, cheerful, like she'd just given me a gift. She stood about 6 feet away, her phone out, recording. Her friends flanked her, trying not to laugh but failing. One of them, Jessica, had her hand over her mouth, shoulders shaking. I stood there, dripping, and something inside me went very still and very cold. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even wipe the mess from my face. I just looked at Maya, really looked at her, and I saw it, that flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She'd expected tears. She'd expected a scene. She'd expected me to give her the satisfaction of breaking down in front of everyone. I gave her nothing. I set my tray down carefully on the nearest table. I picked up my backpack, slinging it over one shoulder despite the fact that it was now covered in rotten dairy and raw egg. And I walked out of the cafeteria without saying a word. Behind me, I heard Maya's voice, higher now, less certain. What, you're just going to leave? Come on, it was a joke. I kept walking. The nurse's office was empty. Mrs. Chen, the school nurse, took one look at me and didn't ask questions. She just handed me paper towels, pointed to the private bathroom, and told me to take my time. I cleaned up as best I could, but the smell wouldn't leave. It had soaked into my hair, my clothes, probably my pores. I looked like exactly what I was, a girl who'd been publicly humiliated on what was supposed to be a special day. I called my dad. Can you come get me? My voice was steady, which surprised me. What happened? His tone shifted immediately from casual to alert. I just need to come home. Please. I'm on my way. My dad is not a large man. He's 5'9", slender, with wire-rimmed glasses and graying hair he keeps too long. He looks like what he is, a lawyer who works in corporate litigation, someone who spends his days reading contracts and filing motions. But there's something about him that people underestimate until it's too late. He's methodical. He's patient. And when he decides to act, he doesn't stop until the problem is solved. He arrived at the school within 20 minutes, which meant he dropped everything at work and sped through traffic to get there. When I climbed into his car, still smelling like a dumpster, he looked at me for a long moment. Tell me everything, he said quietly. So I did. I told him about Maya. About the 2 years of small cruelties that had built up like sediment. About the cafeteria and the milk and the eggs and the phone recording it all. About how the teachers never quite saw it, or if they did, they called it drama and told us to work it out ourselves. My dad listened without interrupting. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles going white, but his face stayed calm. When I finished, he was silent for almost a full minute. Go home and take a shower, he finally said. I'll be back in a few hours. Dad, what are you going to do? He looked at me, and something in his eyes made me shiver despite myself. I'm going to fix this. I should have asked more questions. I should have pressed him for details. But I was 15 and exhausted and still smelled like spoiled milk, so I just nodded. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't find out until later, was that my dad already knew more about Maya Thornton's family than I'd ever mentioned. See, my dad doesn't just practice corporate law. He specializes in business litigation, which means he knows how to dig through financial records, corporate filings, tax documents. He knows how to find the cracks in people's carefully constructed facades. And Maya's family had a lot of cracks. Her father, Richard Thornton, owned a regional chain of car dealerships. 6 locations across 2 states, all branded with that aggressive will-beat-any-price energy that screamed desperation masked as confidence. On paper, the business looked successful. Flashy website. Constant radio ads. Billboards on every highway. But my dad had represented a former business partner of Richard's in a lawsuit 3 years prior. The case had settled out of court, but not before my dad had seen the inside of Thornton's books. He knew things. He knew Richard had been cooking the books for years, inflating sales numbers to secure loans. He knew about the shell companies used to hide debt. He knew about the tax evasion schemes that were technically legal but ethically bankrupt. He knew about the employees paid under the table, the safety violations swept under the rug, the customers scammed with predatory financing. My dad had kept copies of everything. Lawyers do that. You never know when information might be useful. Now it was useful. That afternoon, while I sat in the shower letting scalding water try to burn away the humiliation, my dad made phone calls. First to the IRS. Then to the State Labor Board. Then to the Better Business Bureau. Then to 3 different local news stations. He didn't make accusations. He didn't need to. He just asked very specific questions and pointed very specific people toward very specific documents. He was a compass, and everyone else followed the direction he indicated. "I'm just a concerned citizen," he told one reporter. "I came across some irregularities that I felt should be investigated. For the public good." By the time I came downstairs for dinner, showered and changed into clean clothes but still feeling raw, my dad was making spaghetti like nothing had happened. "How are you feeling?" he asked, not looking up from the pot he was stirring. "Tired," I admitted. "Thanks for picking me up. Always." We ate dinner quietly. My mom was out of town for work. She traveled a lot for her job in pharmaceutical sales, so it was just the two of us. Dad asked about my other classes, about my friends, about anything except what had happened at lunch. It felt almost normal. Almost. "Dad?" I said as we were cleaning up. "What did you do today?" He dried his hands carefully on a dish towel, taking his time. "I made sure that what happened to you won't happen again." "What does that mean?" "It means Maya's family is going to have bigger problems than high school drama very soon. And it means you don't have to worry about her anymore." There was something in his voice, something final and cold, that made me both grateful and slightly scared. But I was still so angry, still so hurt, that I didn't push further. I wish I had. The next morning, I didn't want to go back to school, but my dad insisted. "You don't let them see you hide," he said. "You walk in with your head up." So I did. The cafeteria was buzzing with whispers when I walked in. But they weren't about me. They were about Maya. She sat at her usual table, but her friends had scattered to other seats. She was alone, hunched over her phone, and even from across the room I could see her hands shaking. Sophie found me immediately. "Did you hear?" "Hear what?" "Maya's dad got arrested this morning. Like, actually arrested. The police came to her house at 6 a.m. Something about tax fraud and embezzlement. It's all over social media." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Yeah, and apparently there's an investigation into all his dealerships. They're saying he might have to shut down the whole business. Maya's mom is freaking out. Someone said they might lose their house." I looked across the cafeteria at Maya. She was crying now, quietly, into her hands. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sick. I found my dad that evening in his home office, surrounded by the usual chaos of legal pads and case files. "You got Maya's dad arrested," I said without preamble. He looked up, his expression neutral. I provided information to the appropriate authorities. What they chose to do with it was their decision. "Dad." "He was breaking the law, sweetheart. Multiple laws, actually. Someone would have caught him eventually. I just accelerated the timeline. Because of me. Because of what happened at lunch. Because," he said carefully, "someone hurt my daughter, and I wasn't going to let it slide. But her whole family benefited from illegal activity for years. They drove nice cars and lived in a nice house and sent Maya to private summer camps, all funded by fraud and tax evasion. They're not innocent victims here." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say this was too much, too far. But part of me, the part that still felt the cold milk sliding down my neck, that still heard Maya's cruel laughter, couldn't quite form the words. Over the next week, things unraveled fast for the Thornton family. The IRS seized assets. The State Labor Board shut down 3 of the 6 dealerships pending investigation. Local news ran a multi-part series on the scandal, complete with interviews from former employees who'd been paid in cash and denied benefits. Richard Thornton's mugshot appeared on the front page of the regional newspaper. Maya stopped coming to school. At first, I thought she was just taking time off. But days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. Rumors said the family was trying to sell their house. Other rumors said Maya's mom had filed for divorce. Someone claimed they'd seen Maya working at a fast food place across town, trying to help with legal bills. I couldn't verify any of it. But I couldn't stop thinking about it either. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks after my birthday, my dad called me into the living room. "We have visitors," he said simply. Through the front window, I could see a car in our driveway. Maya's mom was behind the wheel, and Maya sat in the passenger seat. Both looked exhausted. Maya's mom's eyes were red-rimmed, and Maya stared straight ahead like she was in a trance. "They want to talk to us," Dad said. "I'm going to let them in. But if you don't want to be here for this, you can go upstairs." I thought about it. Really thought about it. But in the end, I needed to hear what they had to say. They sat on our couch, perched on the edge like they might need to run at any moment. Maya wouldn't look at me. Her mom did all the talking. I know what Maya did to your daughter, Mrs. Thornton began, her voice shaking. I know it was cruel and inexcusable. I've talked to Maya about it, and she understands, she knows, how wrong it was. Maya flinched but still didn't speak. I'm here to ask, Mrs. Thornton continued, if there's any way, any possible way, your family could help us. Or at least, if you could ask Mr. Reeves to stop. The investigation, the media attention, all of it. We've lost everything. Richard is facing prison time. We're going to lose our house. Maya can't even go to school without people staring and whispering. I'm begging you. Please. The silence that followed felt like it had weight. My dad's voice was very quiet when he spoke. Mrs. Thornton, I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't plant evidence or make false accusations. Everything that's happening to your husband is a consequence of choices he made. Illegal choices. I know, but, your daughter, Dad continued, and now his voice had an edge, poured rotten food on mine in front of dozens of witnesses because it was her birthday. She filmed it. She laughed about it. And according to my daughter, this was just the culmination of 2 years of systematic harassment that your daughter seems to have thought was entertainment. Maya finally looked up, her face blotchy with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did believe her. But another part of me remembered every small cruelty, every calculated exclusion, every time she'd looked at me like I was something on the bottom of her shoe. I accept your apology, I heard myself say. The words came out flat, automatic. But I don't know if it changes anything. Mrs. Thornton turned to me with desperate eyes. Please. You seem like a good person. You have to understand, Maya made a terrible mistake, but she's just a kid. She doesn't deserve to have her whole life destroyed because of it. And I certainly didn't do anything wrong. I didn't know about Richard's business practices. I'm losing my home, my marriage, everything, because of things I had no part in. My daughter is also just a kid, my dad said coldly. A kid who was humiliated and violated on her birthday while other people recorded it for entertainment. Where was your concern for consequences then? We'll do anything, Mrs. Thornton pleaded. Maya will apologize to the whole school. She'll transfer out if that's what you want. We'll pay for therapy, or, I don't want your money, I cut in. I don't want Maya to transfer. I don't even know what I want. And that was the truth. I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out my insides and left only confusion. My dad stood up, which was a clear signal the conversation was ending. Mrs. Thornton, I'm very sorry for what your family is going through. Genuinely. But I won't interfere with an ongoing legal investigation, and I won't ask prosecutors to drop legitimate charges. Your husband broke the law. Those are the consequences. But you started this. You tipped them off. I reported illegal activity. That's not just my right as a citizen, it's my obligation. If your husband hadn't been committing crimes, there would be nothing to find. Mrs. Thornton looked at me one more time. Please. I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. They left a few minutes later. Through the window, I watched Maya's mom basically carry her back to the car. Maya's shoulders were shaking with sobs. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt like a monster. Did we go too far? I asked my dad after they'd driven away. He was quiet for a long time. I don't know, he finally admitted. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to make sure you'd never feel that kind of humiliation again. But Maya was right about one thing, she's just a kid. And now her life is genuinely upended. But her dad actually broke the law. You said so yourself. He did. Extensively. And he deserved to face consequences for that. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't time the revelation specifically to hurt Maya's family. I could have reported it quietly. I could have let it play out slowly. Instead, I made sure it was public, immediate, and devastating. Because of me. Because someone hurt you, and I couldn't stand it. We stood there in the living room, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the floor, and I realized something: there's no clean answer to this. No moment where you can point and say, here, this is where we were right, and this is where we were wrong. Maya had been cruel. Systematically, deliberately cruel. My dad had retaliated with information that was technically legitimate but weaponized specifically for revenge. Maya's dad had committed actual crimes that hurt actual people. But Maya's mom and any siblings or family members caught in the blast radius hadn't done anything except have the bad luck to be related to Richard Thornton. Where does responsibility start and end? Where's the line between justice and vengeance? I still don't have answers. Maya came back to school 2 weeks later. She was quieter, smaller somehow. She sat in the back of every class and never spoke unless called on. Her friends had mostly abandoned her, some because of the scandal, some because they'd always been fair-weather allies anyway. I didn't talk to her. I didn't avoid her either. We just existed in the same spaces without acknowledging each other. Once, in the hallway, our eyes met accidentally. She looked away immediately, but not before I saw something in her expression that I recognized, the same hollow confusion I felt. Neither of us knew how to process what had happened. Neither of us could quite figure out who the villain was in this story. Richard Thornton eventually took a plea deal. 3 years in a minimum security facility, massive fines, and the permanent dissolution of his business. The family lost their house and moved to a smaller rental across town. Maya's mom got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. Maya stayed at our school, though, because they couldn't afford private school anymore and the public schools were restricted by address. My dad never expressed regret, but he did stop talking about it. When I'd bring it up, trying to process my feelings, he'd listen but wouldn't engage much. I think he was protecting me from his own uncertainty. He'd acted out of love, fierce, protective, parental love, but I suspect he sometimes wondered, late at night, if he'd become the kind of person he usually worked against in court. The kind who uses power and information as weapons. Sophomore year ended. Junior year began. Life moved on the way it always does, whether you've processed your trauma or not. Maya and I never became friends. We never had a dramatic confrontation or a tearful reconciliation. We just coexisted. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me in the hallway, and I still couldn't read her expression. Regret? Resentment? Fear? Maybe all three. Senior year, Maya's mom apparently saved enough to move them to a different district. I heard this third hand, from someone who knew someone. Maya transferred out quietly, mid-semester. No announcements, no goodbyes. I felt relieved. And I felt guilty about feeling relieved. I'm in college now. My dad and I don't talk about that day anymore, though sometimes when I'm home for breaks, I'll catch him looking at me with this expression like he's trying to figure out if he made the right choice. I never give him an answer because I don't have one. What Maya did was wrong. Unquestionably, undeniably wrong. What my dad did was complicated. He didn't lie. He didn't frame anyone. He just took information he had legal access to and made sure the right people saw it at the right time for maximum impact. Is that justice? Is that revenge? Is there even a difference when the person you love has been hurt? I think about Maya sometimes. I wonder if she thinks about me. I wonder if she's okay, wherever she ended up. I wonder if she's worked through her own demons, the ones that made her need to hurt someone else to feel powerful. I wonder if her family ever recovered, or if they're still picking up the pieces of a life shattered by a chain reaction of cruelty and consequence. And I wonder if, somewhere in an alternate universe, there's a version of this story where Maya never poured that milk. Where we both just made it through high school without leaving scars on each other. Where my dad never had to choose between being my protector and being the kind of person he could look at in the mirror. But that's not the universe we live in. In this universe, on my 15th birthday, a girl humiliated me in front of dozens of people because she could. And my father, who loved me enough to become someone he maybe wasn't proud of, made sure she never could again. I can't tell you if what he did was right. I can't even tell you how I feel about it most days. Some mornings I wake up and think, good. She deserved it. Other mornings I wake up and feel sick thinking about Maya's mom crying in our living room, begging for mercy from people who'd already decided to give none. The truth is messy. The truth is I was both victim and beneficiary of something that spiraled way beyond a cafeteria humiliation. The truth is my dad loved me so much he was willing to blur ethical lines, and I both appreciate and resent him for it. The truth is Maya was cruel until life taught her a harsh lesson about consequences, and I'll never know if she actually learned anything or just learned to be afraid. What I do know is this: be careful who you hurt. Not because of some cosmic balance or moral certainty, but because you never know who's watching, who's taking notes, who's waiting for the right moment to act. And be careful, too, about the people who love you. Because sometimes their protection feels less like safety and more like a debt you never asked to owe. I turned 20 last month. 5 years since that birthday. I didn't have a party. I just had dinner with my parents at a quiet restaurant, and when they sang happy birthday, I smiled and blew out the candles and tried not to think about rotten milk and eggs and the price of revenge. But I did think about it. I always do. And I suspect I always will. Except the story doesn't quite end there. Because life has this way of circling back on itself when you least expect it. 3 months ago, I was working my part-time job at a bookstore near campus, one of those independent places that smells like old paper and coffee, where college students camp out for hours pretending to study. I was restocking the psychology section when I heard a voice behind me that made every muscle in my body lock up. "Excuse me, do you have anything on trauma recovery?" I turned around slowly, book still in my hand, and there she was. Maya Thornton looked different. Her hair was shorter, no makeup, dressed in simple jeans and an oversized sweater that had definitely seen better days. She was thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. But it was definitely her. Our eyes met, and I watched the recognition dawn on her face. Color drained from her cheeks. The book she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a sound that felt too loud in the quiet store. "I'm sorry," she stammered, already backing away. "I didn't know you, I'll just go." "Wait." The word came out before I could stop it. She froze, looking at me like I was a trap about to spring shut. "The trauma section is actually over here," I heard myself say, gesturing to the adjacent aisle. "We just reorganized last week." Maya stared at me for a long moment, clearly trying to determine if this was some kind of cruel joke. "Oh. Thank you." She didn't move to the other aisle. Neither did I. We just stood there in this awful, charged silence, 5 years of unspoken things hanging between us like smoke. "How have you been?" she finally asked, and the question sounded so absurd given our history that I almost laughed. "Fine. College is fine. You?" "Community college. Part-time. I work mostly." She paused, seeming to struggle with something. "Look, I know this is weird, but I've actually thought about trying to find you. To talk. To actually apologize, not just the forced one my mom made me do." "You don't owe me that." "I think I do." She took a shaky breath. "What I did to you, what I put you through for 2 years, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. Trying to understand why I did it. I was in therapy for a while after everything happened, and my therapist helped me see that I was taking out my own stuff on you." I set down the book I'd been holding, carefully, like it might shatter. "What stuff?" Maya looked around the empty aisle, then seemed to make a decision. "Can we sit? Just for a few minutes? I promise I'll leave you alone after, but I need to say this." We ended up in the corner of the bookstore cafe, two strangers who'd once been enemies, nursing cups of coffee neither of us really wanted. Maya kept her hands wrapped around her mug like she was trying to steal its warmth. "My dad was having an affair," she started abruptly. "Started when I was in 7th grade. I found out by accident, saw text messages on his phone he'd left on the kitchen counter. I never told anyone. Not my mom, not my friends. I just kept this secret for years, watching him lie to my mom's face every single day, watching our family pretend everything was perfect when it was rotting from the inside. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. I was so angry," she continued, her voice cracking slightly. "All the time. At him, at my mom for not seeing it, at myself for not having the guts to say anything. And then you were just there, being normal and happy and whole, and I hated you for it. I know that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't excuse anything. But I needed someone to hurt the way I was hurting, and you were an easy target. Because I wouldn't fight back," I said quietly. "Because you wouldn't fight back," she agreed. "And because some sick part of me thought if I could make you feel as powerless as I felt, maybe I'd feel less powerless myself. Spoiler alert, it didn't work." She laughed bitterly, and there was no humor in it at all. "When everything fell apart with my dad's business," Maya continued, "I thought it was all your dad's fault. I mean, it was, in a way. He's the one who made the calls, who pointed the investigators in the right direction. I was so focused on blaming him, blaming you, that it took me almost a year to realize my dad had actually done all those things. The fraud, the tax evasion, all of it. Your dad didn't make him do any of that. He just exposed it. It was still calculated," I found myself saying. "My dad knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't report your dad because he was a concerned citizen. He did it to hurt you. To hurt your family. Because of me." "I know. And you know what the weird thing is? I don't even blame him anymore. If someone did to my kid what I did to you, I'd probably do worse." She looked down at her coffee. "The affair? Turned out my mom knew the whole time. She'd known for years. She just stayed because leaving meant losing the lifestyle, the house, the status. When everything came crashing down, she finally left. Not because of the affair, but because there was no more money. That's when I really understood how messed up everything had been. Where's your dad now? Got out after 2 years with good behavior. Lives in a different state. We don't really talk. He sends money sometimes, when he has it, which isn't often. She paused. I have a little brother. Did you know that? He was only 10 when everything happened. He's the one I feel worse for. He didn't do anything wrong, and his whole world just exploded. Guilt twisted in my stomach. I'd never thought about Maya having siblings, having a whole family structure that collapsed. In my mind, it had just been Maya and her parents, all equally complicit somehow. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Don't be. We're doing okay now. Better, actually, in some ways. My mom went back to school, got her nursing degree. She's genuinely happy for the first time in years. My brother's in therapy, dealing with his stuff. And me. She trailed off. I'm trying. Some days are harder than others. The trauma books, I said, understanding. Yeah. Turns out when your entire life implodes, you need some help putting yourself back together. Who knew? She smiled, but it was sad. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, by the way. I'm not here looking for absolution or forgiveness or whatever. I just wanted you to know that I get it now. What I did was horrible. And what happened after was horrible. And there's no neat resolution where everyone learns a lesson and moves on. It's just messy and complicated, and we all have to live with it. We sat in silence for a moment. Other customers moved around us, browsing shelves, chatting quietly, living their uncomplicated lives. Can I ask you something? Maya said suddenly. Do you think people can really change? Like fundamentally change, not just pretend to be better? It was the kind of question that deserved a thoughtful answer, not a platitude. I think people can change their actions, I said slowly. Whether that constitutes fundamental change or just better management of the same impulses, I don't know. I'm not sure it matters as long as the behavior changes. That's a very diplomatic answer. My dad's a lawyer. It rubbed off. She smiled slightly at that, the first real smile I'd seen from her. How is your dad? Does he ever? I mean, does he regret it? He doesn't talk about it. But I think yes. Not because he thinks your dad didn't deserve consequences, but because he knows he weaponized information specifically to cause maximum damage. That's not what the legal system is supposed to be for. Vigilante justice. Something like that. Maya stood up, wrapping her sweater tighter around herself. I should go. I'm sure this is the last thing you wanted on your shift. But thank you. For not throwing me out. For listening. Maya, I said as she started to walk away. She turned back. For what it's worth, I don't think you're the same person who poured milk on me. I don't know if that's change or just time or survival instinct. But you're not her. Her eyes filled with tears, and she blinked rapidly, trying to hold them back. Thank you, she whispered. That means more than you know. She left, and I went back to restocking shelves, but my hands were shaking so badly I had to take a break. I texted my dad, saw Maya today. We talked. His response came 3 minutes later, are you okay? I think so. She apologized. Actually apologized. A longer pause this time, then, do you believe her? I thought about that. About the girl with dark circles under her eyes, working and going to school part-time, reading books on trauma recovery, trying to understand herself and what she'd done. About the fact that she could have just left the bookstore when she recognized me, but instead she'd stayed and been vulnerable and honest. Yeah, I typed back. I think I do. Good, he replied. Then, after a moment, I'm proud of you. I didn't ask what he was proud of me for listening, for not retaliating, for being the bigger person 5 years too late. It didn't matter. For the first time since that birthday, I felt like maybe we could both stop carrying this weight around. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Maya, about her little brother, about her mom who'd stayed in a broken marriage for money and status and familiarity. About how my dad's righteous anger had swept through all of them like wildfire, burning away not just the guilty but everyone standing close enough to feel the heat. I thought about cause and effect. About how Maya's home life had created a bully who'd created a victim who'd created a vigilante who'd created a scandal that had destroyed a family that had been rotting from the inside anyway. Circles within circles, everyone both perpetrator and casualty. The next day, I did something I'd been avoiding for 5 years. I looked up Richard Thornton's case online, read through the public records, The news articles, the court documents. I wanted to see, with adult eyes and some distance, exactly what my father had set in motion. The articles painted Richard as a small-time con artist who'd gotten too greedy. Employees described working 70-hour weeks for under-the-table cash, no benefits, no worker protections. Customers told stories of being trapped in predatory loans, cars breaking down immediately after purchase, service departments that charged for work never performed. One article included an interview with a single mother who'd been scammed into a loan she couldn't afford, lost the car when she couldn't make payments, then lost her job because she had no transportation. She'd had to move in with her parents, uproot her kids, start over from nothing. These were the real victims. Not Maya, not even her little brother or her mother. The people Richard Thornton had ground through his machine of greed and fraud, they were the ones who deserved justice. My father hadn't been thinking about them when he made those phone calls. He'd been thinking about me, about rotten milk and humiliation and protecting his daughter. But the outcome had been the same. Richard Thornton had faced consequences that were long overdue. Did that make what my dad did right? Did the fact that real harm had been prevented justify the personal motivation behind it? I still didn't have answers. But I was starting to understand that maybe there aren't always clear answers. Maybe sometimes justice and revenge were the same face, and you can't separate them without breaking something fundamental. 2 weeks later, Maya came back to the bookstore. I saw her through the window before she came in, standing outside like she was gathering courage. When she finally entered, she walked straight to the register where I was working. "Hi," she said, nervous but determined. "I wanted to give you something." She handed me a letter, envelope already sealed, my name written on the front in careful handwriting. "You don't have to read it now. Or ever, really. But I spent the last 2 weeks writing down everything I should have said 5 years ago. Everything I've realized since then. I just needed you to have it." I took the letter, feeling the weight of it. "Thank you. Also," she continued, speaking faster now like she needed to get it all out, "I'm part of an anti-bullying program at my community college. We go to middle schools and talk to kids about our experiences, try to reach them before they become what I was. I was wondering if maybe, someday, if you ever wanted to, you could come with me. Tell your side. It would be powerful for kids to hear both perspectives." The request caught me completely off guard. I don't know if I'm ready for that. That's totally fine. The offer stands whenever, if ever. I just thought, I don't know. Maybe something good could come from all this mess. Maybe we could help some kid not make the choices I made, or give some other kid the courage to speak up before it gets as bad as it got with us. There was something hopeful in her expression, something almost eager. Like she found a way to process her guilt by turning it into action, and she wanted to share that path with me. "Let me think about it," I said. "Of course. No pressure." She left, and I slipped the letter into my bag, not ready to read it yet. I knew once I opened it, once I let myself really engage with her version of events, something would shift irreversibly. The neat compartments I built around that day, around Maya, around my father's choices, they'd start to crumble. I waited until I was home, alone in my apartment, before I finally opened the envelope. The letter was 4 pages, handwritten, and it started like this: "Dear Charlotte, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to write it anyway. Not for you, though I hope it helps you somehow, but because I need to look at myself clearly, without excuses or justifications, and acknowledge what I did to you." She went through it all. Every incident she could remember from those 2 years. Small things I'd almost forgotten: the time she'd accidentally spilled water on my homework, the way she'd mimicked my voice when I gave presentations, how she'd convinced other kids to leave me at group projects. Bigger things I'd never forget: the constant exclusion, the rumors, the way she'd made me feel invisible and hypervisible at the same time. But she also wrote about the why. About watching her father lie, about feeling powerless in her own home, about how hurting me had been a way to exert control when everything else felt chaotic. She wrote about the rush of power she'd felt, the way it had become addictive, how each successful humiliation had made her feel temporarily less weak. "I was a coward," she wrote. "I couldn't stand up to my father, couldn't tell my mother the truth, couldn't fix my own family. So I destroyed yours instead. Or tried to. And when your father fought back the only way he knew how, I learned what it felt like to be on the receiving end of someone else's pain-turned-weapon. I don't blame him. I blame myself for starting something that could only end in rubble." The letter ended with an apology that felt real because it didn't ask for anything in return. No requests for forgiveness, no suggestions that we could be friends, no attempts to minimize what she'd done. Just a simple acknowledgement: "I hurt you. It was wrong. I'm sorry. That's all I can offer, and I know it's not enough. I cried reading it. Not the hysterical sobs of that 15-year-old girl covered in rotten milk, but the quiet, complicated tears of someone recognizing that the person they'd hated wasn't a monster, just another broken kid trying to survive the only way she knew how. I called my dad that night. Maya gave me a letter, I told him. A real apology. She's in therapy, working on herself, trying to prevent other kids from becoming what she was. He was quiet for a long moment. How do you feel about that? Confused. Relieved. Guilty. All of it at once. That sounds about right, he said with a sad laugh. Charlotte, I need to tell you something. I've been talking to someone too. A therapist. About what I did, about whether it was justice or just revenge dressed up in legal language. Dad, let me finish. I've been carrying this around for 5 years, second-guessing myself, wondering if I taught you the wrong lesson that day. If I showed you that when someone hurts you, you find the nuclear option and deploy it without mercy. You were protecting me. I was. But I was also unleashing years of my own frustration with people who think they can get away with anything just because they have money or status or power. Richard Thornton represented every client who'd tried to intimidate me, every opposing counsel who'd played dirty, every person who'd looked at my daughter and seen someone they could hurt without consequences. It wasn't just about you. And that's what I'm trying to work through. I'd never heard my father sound so uncertain, so vulnerable. He'd always been my rock, the person who had all the answers, who could fix any problem with enough research and strategic thinking. What's your therapist saying? I asked. That I can hold two truths at once. That I was right to protect you, and that I took it too far. That Richard Thornton deserved to face justice, and that I weaponized that justice for personal reasons. That Maya's family suffered consequences that extended beyond what was fair, and that sometimes life is just unfair and messy and there's no clean resolution. That doesn't sound very comforting. It's not. But it's honest. He paused. Maya's trying to make amends. Maybe we should too. Not with her, she doesn't need our amends. But with ourselves, with the choices we made. After we hung up, I sat with that for a long time. The idea that maybe we were all just trying to survive, to protect ourselves and the people we loved, and sometimes those survival instincts created casualties we never intended. I still have Maya's letter. I read it sometimes when I'm struggling with moral questions that don't have clear answers. When I'm trying to decide whether to report a professor's inappropriate behavior, or whether to call out a friend's casual cruelty, or how to balance protection with proportionality in my own life. And I think about that 15-year-old girl standing in a cafeteria covered in rotten milk, deciding not to cry, not to scream, just to walk away with her head high. I think about how that decision set off a chain reaction no one could have predicted, how one moment of dignity became a catalyst for destruction and reconstruction and everything in between. I don't regret not crying that day. I don't regret walking away. And I don't regret my father loving me enough to want to burn down the world for me. But I do regret that we live in a world where that felt necessary. Where a 15-year-old girl learns that the only way to be safe is to have someone powerful on her side, willing to cross lines most people won't cross. Where justice and revenge are so entangled that you can't pursue one without invoking the other. Maya and I aren't friends. I don't think we ever will be. But we're something else now, two people who survived the same storm and came out the other side changed in ways we're still discovering. We're witnesses to each other's worst moments and tentative steps towards something better. Last month, I finally took Maya up on her offer. We went to a middle school together and talked to an auditorium full of kids about bullying, consequences, and the complicated reality of forgiveness. I told them about being humiliated on my birthday. She told them about why she'd done it, what she'd been hiding, how it had felt to lose everything. A girl in the front row raised her hand and asked the question I'd been afraid of, so should the other girl's dad have gotten arrested or not? Maya and I looked at each other, and I saw in her eyes the same uncertainty I felt. He broke the law, I said carefully. He hurt people, and he deserved consequences for that. But the timing wasn't an accident, Maya added. It was personal revenge, even if it was also justice. Both things can be true. So what's the lesson? The girl pressed. Maya smiled sadly. That life is messy. That hurt people. That consequences ripple out in ways you can't control. And that maybe, if we're lucky, we can learn from our mistakes instead of being destroyed by them. It wasn't a satisfying answer. I could see it in the kids' faces. They wanted clarity, wanted good guys and bad guys, wanted to know that the world made sense. But that would have been a lie. And I've learned that the truth, uncomfortable as it is the only thing worth telling.